is up? Ooh. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another exciting episode of the True Earth Debates. That's right, the Flat Smack Friday. Still had my reverb up when I was messing around. What can you do? Can't land all of the intros, right? In fact, we land almost none of them here. But hey, welcome to the show if you're new. We definitely appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate my audience sharing out the show, doing their part, helping grow this thing. It has been absolutely awesome. We just recently hit 1,000 subscribers, so I'm excited to see what we do. This Friday stream is going to be absolutely awesome. Let's go ahead and do a shout out for those who are joining us. We have the YouTube side, of course, Jeremy Bird, first one in the door as usual, and Justin Johnson. Awesome, man. Two legends, Wes F.E., Brian Leak. Yeah, we are trying to get that worked out. I'll be reaching out. Enough people have reached out. It's like, we want to catch you guys at the same time, referring to Witsit, of course. So what can you do, right? I do this show every Friday at 10 o'clock. But we can adjust. Anyway, we got Nuba. Much love, my friend. Russell Gregory. Much love, my friend. Mellow Dome in the house. Rashad. We also have Call for Zero. It is indeed flat, and we are going to hash it out in the TikTok trenches once again. We also have Lord Razor. Much love. Mario C. Jess Palmer. Everybody's starting to pour in now. Question the answers. Creature. MrTribune. Bill Wheel, Witsit, Troubling, and Walt. Oh, on Iron Realm Media, they're still going. Wow. That is a great show as well. Folks, you got it tough. I would not want to be in your shoes. I get the fortune of just getting to catch all the shows afterwards. That's okay. Everybody knows why I'm not in the chat. All right. What a world. What is up, my friend? Okay. That's enough of that. Let's move over to Rockfin. We got some legends over in Rockfin. Shout out to Jeremy Bird. And also, huge shout out to Adam Medea with a $5 tip as well. Thank you very much. The support is much appreciated. You have indeed made it to Alive. Mischief Brew, welcome. I'd also like to shout out once again Jeremy Bird for setting up the GoFundMe. We are trying to make it to Flattoberfest. So if you guys would like to meet me over there, then feel free to go to the GoFundMe link that he's dropping and show your support. We've have a lot of great people over there donating. I'm going to be doing a whole shout-out stream here pretty soon. But I wanted to give people the opportunity to get in there. But we already have a lot of love over there. A lot of love. So, huge shout-out. All right. Well, folks, you know how it goes today. This is the TikTok event, right, that we bring over to YouTube for your pleasure, because most of you in the Truthiverse do not want to have China all up in your business, which is a little confusing for me because we already have the United States government all up in our business. But you know what? I guess I could argue it either way, right? It's like, oh, so you think we should just have more people spying on us? Not necessarily, but what can you do, right? I don't mind. It's a huge platform. It's helped us grow quite a bit. Let's go ahead and get the thing in here. We never know who we're going to run into on these things. So we got to go ahead and fire it on up. But I definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate all the support. I've lost my audio backing, so it should be fine for you guys, but I do not know what it sounds like anymore. So always a little nerve-wracking. Go ahead and start this up and get it going, folks. While we're doing this, feel free to share the show, like it. We definitely appreciate that. It helps the algorithms. It helps new people find the show, and that's going to be really, really important this day and age. So let's go ahead and get into the lives here, and then we'll mute up so we don't double up. It helps the algorithm. We are. Let's go ahead and get into the lives here, and then we'll mute up so we don't double up. All right, there we are. All right, folks, here we go. Everything's streaming through the one sound. Let's go ahead and make sure everybody can see. Cannot. Not yet. Awesome. We got you. Gonna get a quick look at the back end. Folks, just sit tight over on the TikTok. we will be right with you. Going to be an awesome show, folks. Smash that like, smash the screen. Try not to crack it, though, because you do still want to enjoy the show, right? We are got the True Earth debate firing on all cylinders. Are we a spinning, flying space pair, wobbling, processing through space, or are we something more stationary, flat? I tend to think that we're a stationary plane with no curvature, lots of topography, hills and valleys that the sun can set behind. Enough of silly questions like that, like why can I pull up the sunset twice, right? And it's like, it's because you're just going above the first thing that it's set behind, right? Which could be just Atmos, right? Anyway, live in Florida right next to NASA. Derek, that's awesome, man. We're going to be making a field trip to NASA here pretty soon. Should be fire. Earth is a cube, maybe. Maybe we live on one side of the cube, and that's why it's all flat, and then on the other sides there's multiple different Earths, right? But who knows? Maybe there's a map, you know? You got a map of that? That'd be pretty interesting to see. I wonder how we would verify that scientifically. Probably like finding like some edge to look over, right? If you could show me an edge where there's another side to the cube Earth, I might be inclined to believe it, right? No, it's not satire, but it is opinion. It is religious based. I will tell everybody, now that we're all in one place, we got everybody all together, big happy family. I will go ahead and let everybody know that we are on the thinnest of ice, right? We are on the thinnest of ice, as the title of the show suggests, because we have received another strike. Just doing a quick little 30, 45-minute live the other day, got hit for misinformation, right? Which was absolutely crazy, because I do tell everybody that these are my opinions. It's basically like a religion, right? Even though these are the things that I feel are true. Everybody is welcome to believe whatever they want and have the conversation to hash out these beliefs, right? But there's no hate here. That's why we conduct ourselves cordially, why I have the rules of don't be an arse, don't interrupt people, let people land their plane, so on and so forth. I can pull them back up in a little bit. But yeah, lots of mass reporting, right? And we don't like that kind of stuff, so... Thin ice, guys. You see that we're back, though, and that's because it was a fraudulent report. And luckily, when I appealed it, they reinstated me right away. So, very cool there. Good on you, TikTok. I wish you would have taken a look to see what the live was before you banned me. But, hey, can't knock them all out of the park, I guess. Guys, let's go ahead and keep on smashing that likes. We need to get to 5K. We need to share this show amongst all your TikTok friends. And let's go ahead and get some people in the box to have this wonderful conversation. Welcome back, the chosen one. You were probably there when we got booted. The tea is hot, the globe is not. Globers, hop on in. Let's see what you have for us today. I believe that there is no good scientific verifiable evidence that the Earth is a globe, spinning, flying oblate spheroid, flying through 4 different vectors through space with no measurable motion, and now added to the absurdity of a wobble within a precession. How would you back that up? That is absolutely wild. What is up, folks? Michael LHP space is fake AF, right? I don't know how you could say it's fake. I have a picture of it right behind us. This is actually the true Earth cosmology. I meant to demonstrate that earlier. Here you go. You can clearly see the firmament surrounding us, all the known world within this container. This is a picture from the outside, and you cannot debunk it, right? You have no evidence that this is fake. All right, Q.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I can tell my audio has been terrible the whole time. I apologize. I thought my headset was plugged in.
Oh, there we go. That's a little better. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. I don't think that I've had the pleasure of speaking with you before. We always like to have new faces.
Yeah, I've perused through a few times. I've got some questions that you may have the answer for in your flat Earth model, I'm just not real sure about.
I might have some answers, and hopefully you could have some answers for me too on why you would
So,
continue on your belief of the spinning flying space pair.
well, explain to me how your sun works.
In what regard? Like the motion of it, like what it is? What do you mean?
Well, where's it located? What's its travel path? How hot is it? How high is it?
Oh, like actually model it out perfectly?
Yeah.
Well, I wish I could have that for you because it would make this debate much easier, right? Then it would be a nail in the coffin, even more so than it already is. But I will remind you, Ike, that replacement is independent of falsification, right? So I do have other evidences for the shape of the, or for the, yeah, we can call it shape, even though that's kind of the wrong word, right? I'm not saying the overall like it's a circle or a sphere or a square. I'm saying that it's flat, right? So our known world, there's no measurable curvature. This would be indicated by the fact that there's no bulge that would indicate this curvature. If there was a bulge, there would be something consistent that we could measure all the time. But due to things like, or cop outs, I'll call them, like refraction, various atmospheric conditions, you can pretty much explain away any observation that's ever made that would falsify that claim. But besides that, we also have radio transmission, electromagnetic propagation. Over a Flat Earth is the title of a manual that the Army uses. They actually shoot radio waves, microwaves, all these types of waves as if it's line of sight flat over the horizon. So this would indicate that there is no actual curvature in that regard. As far as like what the sun specifically is, I don't know. I couldn't test it to tell you scientifically, empirically, one way or the other.
Well, you just went all the way around the world or across the world, whichever way you want to look at it about that question. And as far as the radio waves and that thing, such sort of nature, waves are not laser point focused. Radio waves spread out, so it wouldn't make any difference if the globe was round or flat, either one.
That's a non
My
sequitur
big
IQ.
problem
So
with the
the reason why
sun
that, if I'm
it should be a simple thing. You know, if it's either inside the firmament or outside the firmament,
IQ,
where
that's the
it's
thing.
located.
Well, that's the thing. See, you guys didn't even have a good explanation of where it is. It's moved 7 times in modern history as far as the distance goes, which means the size has changed 7 times, which means the astronomical unit has changed 7 times, which means the distance to all of your stars has changed at least 7 times. And they just recently changed the known distance to Polaris. So before you go demanding for this model that perfectly explains it, right, understand that you don't actually have that.
Right, nobody has the actual to either side. It's all based in theory.
Right. So then
But it
that would make my
seems
side
to
not
me
less. So we wouldn't say that my side's less valid because I don't know the specifics of the sun, right? You
nobody's
went on to
theory
say
is
it's
less
simple enough,
valid.
right? But I clearly debunked that, right? If you guys had to
Well,
change it 7 times, it's not a simple thing.
well, that's not necessarily true. You know, any theory is just a theory. I mean, a relative hypothesis is just a gathering of thoughts, proven or not proven. You don't have to prove a hypothesis for it to be a hypothesis.
Right.
But the simplest thing, I mean, proven or unproven, if there is this firmament that is surrounding us and it's completely filled with water on the outside, number one, I've heard many flat earth people say that they can tell where the firmament is, how high, how wide, where it goes, where it starts, where it stops.
I
It
don't
seems to
necessarily agree
me,
with that.
okay, so it seems to me though that if you've got even some relative idea of that, explain how the water that circumferences this entire firmament, what holds that in place? Is there just never ending water outside the firmament?
I really don't know. And that would be
Yeah,
complete
we can't go
speculation
there.
station. Melodome, go ahead.
What's up, brother? Yeah, that's just a place we can't go to, so we're not making claims of what's up above our head. You might have heard other flat earthers make claims, but here right now in this debate, I haven't heard a flat earther make a claim of what's outside of some firmament. I don't even subscribe to a dome myself. I don't know what's above my head, but we can talk about what we're standing on, what's underneath our feet.
That's true. you're a different. I mean, everybody's got their different ideas and different beliefs and different things of the nature. But the latest one that I've heard is the figure 8 pattern of the sun. It seems to me if we were all on a flat plane, everybody would see the sun all the time or the moon all the time. There shouldn't be the vast differences of night and day and the differences of one part of the earth gets, 18 hours of daylight, another part only gets 6 hours of daylight. If this sun is traveling at the same height above us, no matter what path it takes, there shouldn't be any ice anywhere. The temperature should
So
be
let me ask you a
relatively the
question.
same anywhere.
So when the clouds in the sky, is there, I mean, this is all perspective, and when things are going away from you in the sky, they tend to hit the horizon, same way the clouds would, right? I mean, we wouldn't see the sun forever because the earth is flat. As the sun goes away from us due to angular resolution perspective, it's going to hit that horizon and
Well,
then go below the horizon.
you don't need an angular perspective if you have a flat plane. You just
No,
have a
no, 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 no.
distance,
No,
and it
listen.
would
So
never
if the sun's
disappear
over our
because
head,
if you have a telescope, you'll be able to see it 24/7.
I'm about to interject for a second.
go ahead.
IQ, the big thing here that gets lost on a lot of new people in this debate is that we actually don't see in Euclidean geometry as thought of for however many thousands of years, if you believe in the mainstream timeline. That was an assumption made by a Greek guy back in BC that has been carried over until recently, where when they really started to look at how the robotics were seeing the actual programs, and they were comparing that to how we were seeing that with the real experience, and there was something that they weren't quite getting right. Well, they realized that there's an experiment called the alley experiment that you can look at where they prove out that we actually see in a spherical space, hyperbolic space. So this idea that there would be no horizon on a flat Earth because light just travels in straight lines forever, and so you get this orthographic drawing, and you just draw the lines going straight to the observer every single time. That's actually not how it works in reality, and those drawings actually don't take into account at all what happens with actual perspective, which is the idea that things merge to the center the further away they get from you from their relative position. That's it. I have the sun. Also, welcome to the show. Thank you for being patient.
Welcome, welcome. I just want to question because I'm with you on this. Uh, if we not in a bubble, glass, firmary, whatever you want to call it, dome, globe, if we not inside of one, why doesn't the smoke go anywhere? Why doesn't the smoke anything that occurs? It's like shaking a globe. It stays in dance.
I'm with you there.
It doesn't go anywhere.
I would kind of want to explain too why we're not the same temperature all the time if we're inside of a globe or inside of a firmament. How do we regulate temperature? Air
Now the
quality.
temperature gonna come. The temperature they create the temperature. They can just like they create the weather. They can create the atmosphere.
It's just a
So
convection cycle.
yeah, exactly. So it's no possible way that we can't not be in a bubble. We're in a bubble of firmament, meaning that the Earth is flat. It's no other way that it can't be flat because you would fall over if it was round. Like think about it logically.
So there's no such thing as gravity.
Can you float?
I can't float.
IQ, to answer the question of gravity, gravity is something that has not been shown, at least from what I've seen, to have been demonstrated to have all the variables isolated. Now, the first go to for it is, well, what about the Cavendish experiment? You can even do it in a vacuum, right? Well, the thing with the Cavendish is that there's still the electrostatic force between the atoms inside the actual lead balls, And what this can do is this can actually create an attractive force. But the way that we would explain it is that there is a measurable, I believe it's like 100 microvolts per meter up as you go upwards. And because of this charge differential, this sets a vector, and then the electrostatics, which creates the buoyant and which ultimately determines the buoyancy and density of things, plays out the rest of the forces. So, just like how it is in the globe explanation, how there's gravity, but then there's density and buoyancy that kind of even everything out and explain the other things, why clouds float, why lead balls sink. It's pretty much the same way. The electrostatic force that we can actually vector. Now, how we would test that, we use a Van de Graaff generator, which means that you can put in a charge or discharge from an item. We have a neutrally buoyant helium balloon, meaning it's a helium balloon that's just floating freely due to a weight. When you hook it up to a Van de Graaff generator, depending on if you charge it or discharge it, you can make this item raise or sink. So there we have an experiment where we have actually isolated the variable. By changing that variable, we've created a cause and effect relationship. Has that been done with gravity?
No, you can't do that with gravity because it's not a man-made construct. Gravity is nothing you can
Electrostatics
hold
isn't
into your
man-made.
hand. Like with the Van de Graaff generator, you can charge or discharge something. You can't create or discreate gravity like you can with the Van de Graaff.
So you would acknowledge then that there's no way to isolate the force of gravity to demonstrably verify it.
No, not really. No, anything other than, you throw something up, if there's not gravity, it'll just stay up.
I mean, that'd be pretty wild. I mean, but you can do that with helium. Certain items that are less dense than air do float, right? But again,
Yeah, but you have to
if
interject something to make it happen. It's just
well,
not everything that exists. Everything that exists is affected by gravity the exact same way. Whereas the things you're bringing to attention have to be affected or interjected with another man-made force to cause this effect.
so that's how you would, but that's well. First off, electricity isn't necessarily a man-made force, right? You can create it, right? But electricity itself is not necessarily a man-made thing. It's something that just
Right. I
exists.
mean, we
But
generate electricity from inside the earth.
There's
Yeah,
buoyancy, density, it sorts out everything, and the downward vector is created by the electrostatics.
so let me ask you, IQ, what do you think would be more likely? That there is a force that's admittedly at this point a non-force. I'm not going to, sit and pretend that you know the ins and outs of relativity, but it's no longer mass attracting mass. It's now the bending and warping of space-time. And so it's kind of already been admitted that gravity is only really seen on the galactic planetary scale, not really for the scale that what we're dealing with here on Earth. That's actually admitted to be electrostatic forces causing all that. At least if you, what was the guy's name? Lumen was the guy's last
Walter
name.
Lewin.
Yeah,
Walter
Walter
Lewin.
Lewin. Yeah,
yeah.
he was doing a whole bunch of talks on that. But in any case, we actually have an experiment where we have manipulated a variable and created a cause and effect relationship up and down. This has not been done with gravity to even show that it even exists. So, I mean, what do you think would be a more likely explanation? Something that can be demonstrated with an experiment or something that can't be?
Well, I mean, I'm not a scientist. I'm just a regular Joe. So, I mean, I'm sure that you can prove or disprove just about anything with any kind of experiment if you have the right group of people. So, for me to say yay or nay to your claim versus my claim, it without us having full proof right in front of us, I agree with what you're saying as well. But, without the actual proof of those and bearing them against each other with someone that had the actual field of gravity experience and were able to put that into an experiment versus your, then you can't debate that. And I'm not going to debate anything that I don't have personal knowledge of, and I don't claim to have personal knowledge of a globe or a flat Earth. I'd just like to have some answers to some questions, that nobody seems to be able to answer. And it's the same for both sides, you know.
Fair enough. I will say that there is a demonstration of how the sun could work. Like it doesn't put in specifics of like, well, we know the sun is this high and we know it's made of this, but what we can tell you is that the effect of sun setting has been recreated over a flat surface various different ways. We've done it with a Fresnel lens. We've done it simply by being lower than something in the distance, which is, mountains most of the time, mountains, trees. The sun's always most of the time setting behind something, and then you have the instances over water where it literally sets into this opaque atmospheric deck that superimposes itself over the waterline, which you can prove by simply changing the levels on the camera of a picture and bringing the full horizon back into view. That's why you get those illusions of floating boats and things like that. They're not actually floating, they're sitting on top of water that the sky has superimposed itself over, which is pretty crazy how it does that. But I'd like to welcome moderator Matt to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Yo.
Good deal. Listen up. I just pulled into the house. It's my supper time. I'd love to come back and chat some more and get some next. We'll work on some more answers on a few things, but I
Yeah,
appreciate
sure
the
thing.
talk. It's time
Yep,
for me to have some supper. Thank you.
absolutely. Enjoy your meal. Thanks for coming on, helping provide to the chat. All right, and with that, we'll go
What's up,
ahead.
man?
What's up, moderator Matt? Now also welcome on Slaying Trolling. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you. Sorry.
Alrighty,
I've been here before.
nice man. What name?
What's that, sir?
Same name?
No, Rascally Rabbit.
Oh, nice, nice. I do think I remember you.
Oh, yeah. I think I got kicked
Oh.
off your show last time for defending Flat Earth too hardcore. And you sent me a DM and said, hey, bro, I agree with you. But, I was getting heated.
Probably. That's funny.
Yeah,
That's super funny.
The gravity thing. Was there no test to isolate gravity? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, so what you have is the Cavendish, right? And you can do a Cavendish in a vacuum chamber, but how does the vacuum chamber isolate for the electrostatic forces between, or that actually hold the object together as a solid object?
How does it isolate for the forces that are physically inside the item itself?
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
I mean, wouldn't gravity also be
What-
inside the item itself too? I mean, wouldn't it be intrinsically a part
All right.
of mass?
So that item exists like a bowling ball on the ground, and when you lift that bowling ball up and it falls, you're saying that's not gravity. What are you going to say? That's buoyancy? Because that wouldn't work in a vacuum chamber.
Okay, so we actually have a test, right? I'm not sure if you were paying attention, but what we have is we've actually done it with two different items. We did it with some tinfoil.
Right, a balloon and a brick or something like that.
No, we did it with
and then you give it a charge.
not just a balloon and a brick, but we did it with tinfoil as well. No balloon. We actually were able to make a piece of tinfoil completely float up in the air by giving it a charge. So what it is, it's pretty much just like what you expect to see, kind of like with magnetic forces. Positive and negative repulse each other. The Earth has an overwhelmingly negative charge, whereas every either a neutral or positive charge. That simple charge differential causes everything to naturally be attracted down. As far as like how much, that's going to be determined by how much electrostatic force is within each item, which is going to different, per item for whatever reason.
It's all electromagnetic forces. How much electric do you have to pump through, let's say, a building, like the Empire State Building, to get it to lift up off the ground?
I don't know. Didn't do the math.
So
You
if
think
I
it'd be
can
a lot,
just
or like-
interject on that point there, if you don't mind. So Aristotle's law of motion talks about displaced medium. So would you agree that, I'm sure you will agree actually, let's say if we're holding that bowling ball 6 feet from the ground, it's displacing medium. There's actually more medium above it than there is below it. Would you agree?
I'm sorry, in that same vacuum chamber, or like, what are we saying?
No, just right here on Earth. Never mind the vacuum chamber, right? So if you're standing on Earth and which is an enclosed system, I agree with that. But when you're holding that bowling ball in your hand, let's say 6 feet above the ground, there's medium above it and there's medium below it. There's more medium, in fact, above it, right? Because Aristotle's law of motion talks about displaced medium. Do you understand that?
Okay, an object in motion stays in motion. All right, so what about it?
Well, that's another theory until acted upon another force.
So if the space itself is moving and you have a stationary object, that's the argument that's being made from, let's say, Globey.
Yeah,
That's the
in,
point.
In reality, there's nothing that really does.
It's the
that,
space
right?
itself.
Every
We've measured gravitational waves. So what did we measure when we saw that? Do you remember that experiment? Very recent.
Yeah, you're talking about
what's the topic? What's the deal, man? True Earth? Debating on true Earth? What do you mean by true Earth?
And everyone else believes that it's a normal planet.
But just because you brought up a point, I just want to interject.
That is so silly, brother.
Well,
The planet is round just like all the other planets.
Well, just so you guys know, I'm going to take a second to interject. We do have one of the rules that try not to interrupt people. That way we can actually have a decent conversation, let the points go through. Joseph, you might think it's silly, but stick around. You might learn something, right, if you're not familiar with this topic.
Nah, man. The planet is round, dude. Like all the other planets. There's nothing flat about it.
Super funny.
Well, we can get to that.
Super funny.
Everything will be flat.
You're very green.
Flat, your tires are flat.
All right, Joseph, chill out for a second. We'll get to you in just a moment. Slay and Trolls, go ahead.
So what he had brought up is a point, right? Is about an object will travel, but the thing is here on Earth we don't see that travel infinitely. What happens is as it's traveling, such things as Coriolis effect, even right, which when you examine it is affected by humidity, temperature, and wind speed. So we understand that when an object is traveling here on Earth, it is displacing medium, and therefore it has resistance. That's why things fall. That's why we can predict how they fall, is debate on how much resistance it accumulates and what's the known trajectory in similar experiments. So for example, right, in the globe Earth model that you guys think about, if I say we live in an enclosed system and the sun actually creates the tides on the other side of the Earth, you will say, well, how is that possible? Right? Because, well, the sun is a local and it's traveling, it's creating pressure on one side of this enclosed system and it's displacing medium.
So Slang, is it all about pressure?
Yes. So in this enclosed system, we have higher gases up. Right now, the sun interacts differently.
Okay.
So when we actually go up,
so we have an up and a down. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you understand humidity gradient pressure. So as you rise
well,
up,
that wouldn't work if it was flat.
It does.
No, but why is there an up and down? That's the part I lost.
So what ends up happening is because there's lighter gases up in the top, right, and they create a pressure, and lower gases.
But why are they all at the top?
Well, listen, oxygen and water, right? So there's a gradient pressure there. When you go up, you eventually lose oxygen and you lose humidity.
But pressure is always equalized. So why isn't everything equalizing?
It does equalize, but it changes.
No, it's separated. There's denser below and. Sorry, am I understanding this right? It's lighter up above, it's denser below, but there's a clear up and down, but it's not equalizing the pressure like everything else does.
Yeah, but it changes continually, constantly.
There's floating rocks, like there's heavier things above us, and everywhere else is everything dispersing to one cohesive thickness. Yes, like that's what happens in a closed system with liquids.
So here's the question for.
So
there's no reason it should go down.
When it snows,
there's inside it. An aerosol can, right? When you shake it and there's a marble inside it, does it float up to the top, Chum?
But you're doing that test on Earth. We're talking about a Earth that is flat and that it's an enclosed system, but nothing governs why things go down that are heavier. They could go anywhere in that closed system. Why would it not be up, left?
You're not understanding what.
But why is the medium displacing itself in that way, though?
I mean, I already answered that. I don't know why we're bird boxing and forgetting the explanation.
I'm not sure why he went back to that. Like he totally.
The explanation didn't explain why up is up.
So I clearly explained that there's basically an electric current, if you will, that goes up is very, very weak from the ground upwards, almost as if we're between two Gaussian surfaces. All right, this is an effect that's actually created here on a small scale with Gaussian plates. All right, you can create an electric
Okay.
current that flows. This sets the vector downwards. Now, move it one step back. Don't get me wrong. You could say, well, why is that happening? And I would have to shrug my
Yes.
shoulders and be like, I wouldn't be able to tell you that, right? But the same, it would be basically like, I could ask you the same for gravity. Like, why is gravity happening? You have a theory for it. Well, we think it's the bending and warping of space time, but as you know, if you're up to date on physics, that's likely to be superseded here very soon because that is not working well. They're coming up with a new theory that doesn't require dark matter or dark energy, with the Mons theory that's starting to become mainstream. So, yeah, it's asking why that happens is, I will admit, we don't know. It's kind of pointless, though. The fact is that it's measurable, though. It does happen. We
Neither
measure this
But
voltage.
let's look at how many
neither do
levels
they
deep
know
you got
though.
into this whole thing, though. When you're starting to make correlations between other truths, right? You find out concrete has a certain thickness and strength when you mix it, all the different stuff. Those are all testable things, right? So when we get down to, all right, why is up, down is down? Well, we got gravity. And then gravity also feeds into how
That's
the planets
begging,
circulate. And that
that's
also
begging the
feeds
question.
into, well, this is
Which way's up and
explaining
well,
But it
the
brother?
doesn't.
depth of the evidence and
But
how it
moderator
correlates.
Matt, with all due respect, you can say that it correlates, but the math actually doesn't even work for the way that the planets are moving and
Correct.
the way that the galaxies are moving. That's why they're having to
It
tweak the
does.
theory. It admittedly doesn't, and they had to rework it several times now to try to
How
make
do
it
we
work.
land on Mars, bro, if we don't understand how they work?
That's another
Aye,
story,
aye,
right? You don't have the proof that we landed on Mars. You assume because you have some pictures from an unverified source that this means that we've obviously done that, right? You can't actually go with terrestrial experiments to be able to prove your claim. You have to rely on some big agency sending some craft somewhere interstellar
Or some
in order to
YouTuber
prove your
guy who's
claim.
done it.
Oh yeah, some
We're always
YouTuber
just
guy.
relying on some other guys.
Yeah, did some YouTuber guy send a craft to Mars? Or some YouTuber claiming to have sent a craft to Mars? That's rich.
If it's fake, yeah. If it can't be, why not?
That's
Now
super
do an
funny.
experiment, put it on YouTube where you do a test with electromagnetism to lift something as heavy as a car.
Well, moderator Matt, obviously, since I can give you a picture and a video of some dude walking on water, and we know that people don't walk on water, obviously we can admit that videos and pictures are not going to be evidence of anything. So,
But why
besides
would you
us apparently
believe
landing
that you
on
can't?
Mars, well, apparently, well, that's the negative claim, right? I don't have to prove why I just don't believe something. That's ridiculous.
Or that you do,
You
yeah.
have to no, you have to prove the positive claim. That's how debate works. That's how logic works, actually. That's why
So you
debate
I
rules
believe
are
think
the
the
that
way
we
one
they are.
making
shot
the claim
something
has to prove
in?
it. I think that's how that works.
No,
The
you gotta
positive claim.
convince us to buy what you're
Yeah, the
selling.
positive claim, right?
Whoever makes the positive claim, moderator Matt, this is logic 101. The
Yeah.
positive claim would be we did land a rover on Mars. The negative claim, which doesn't need a burden, doesn't have to prove, because how could you prove a negative ultimately, right? The burden has
Got
to
you.
be on the positive claimant. So you're claiming that we did
So
land on
you,
Mars. How do you verify
I
that?
got you. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So you saying that the Earth is flat because you're
That
picking
is
something very
positive.
specific. You have to prove that,
Yes.
and by proving that, you have to use evidence,
Yes.
and that evidence is part of your claim. And now you have to prove that that evidence is real.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
Flat
so
Earth is a positive
so
claim.
So do you want to hear some
yep. So
evidence? You want to
your
hear some
evidence
real
that backs that
evidence,
up,
not
like that
theory?
experiment, can you prove that's real?
Yeah, the Van der Graaf generator experiment, that's actually
Yes.
documented well on YouTube. And you can
Documented.
even you can do it yourself
Prove
actually.
the document's real, man.
With the document, no,
People
you
can
man,
make
can't
up
are
really.
you
things.
denying that
Even the
Van de
government
Graaff
can make up
Okay.
things.
So, moderator Matt, the way that science works is that somebody does an experiment, they possibly film the experiment, which most of the time they don't even do that, right? They just present their papers of the experiment because they're expecting through the peer review process that other people that have an interest in this subject will actually take those papers, recreate the experiment, and then try to reproduce the results, right? That burden on the peer review process would be on you. If you'd like to review these results, then please do.
I'm not peer reviewing. I'm questioning the original. So the ones that you're talking about, prove they exist. Prove that it's real.
I can send you a link.
Send me the link, and while you're doing that, send me something that would prove that that is real, that that actually happened, and it's not just something somebody put on the internet.
Would you accept? Would you accept a not only the experiment but also a lecture from a physicist in this specific field that teaches at a university?
But if I have other physicists saying the other thing, now
But
how do I determine which one's real?
But do they specialize in this specific field? Right. So
Yes.
I think that there's not going to be a disagreement between the person that studies electrostatics and the person who studies gravity. I think that they're going to agree that gravity is something that explains the planetary motions, but that the thing that we're dealing with here with the local scale is going to be electrostatics, provably. That's why clouds float.
No.
Yes,
No,
but
no one say that gravity doesn't exist and can't be measured here on Earth.
no, but let us remember,
That's
right? A
false.
scientific
Actually,
law
yeah.
doesn't listen. The scientific law is an explanation of an observed phenomenon. It doesn't explain why it happens, right, or what created it.
That's right. That's right.
So what we're doing is we're offering alternate explanations for gravity.
And when you do that, you have to prove it because you're making a positive claim.
Like
This,
bending space time was proven. Come on, dude.
Yeah, the experiment with the lasers.
He's giving you references to look into.
All right, so now I got to prove that exists, right? That was a real experiment that took place.
I know what experiment you're talking about, but it doesn't isolate all the variables. So,
And you can go research Aristotle's law of motion thoroughly.
All right, Aristotle isn't the only person that exists.
No, I agree.
That's why I referred to the Albert Einstein.
So what about Einstein?
What?
Well, I don't know. You brought him up. Did he prove anything?
I'm not saying he proved anything, but he had some theories that we've used and tested, like general relativity,
Okay.
how we communicate with satellites that are working at a different ticking clock speed than us because time is different for them out there at that speed.
oh boy.
So every
You said a
company,
lot there.
real quick, let's assume that all those AT&T and all those companies exist, right? They all have to deal with this problem. Satellite builders have to deal with this problem. So all of them would have to just be lying about that being a thing that they have to calculate and work into. Not one of them,
satellites.
and all of them.
Compartmentalization. That the CIA is very good at compartmentalization. Right, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand does.
Okay.
So, for example, when we look at the Robertson panel, which was done in just prior to 1960s, we know the CIA hired physicists from SRI and the University of California to use balloons to fake UFOs and satellites.
Gotcha.
Like, do you know what I mean?
So in that same breath, why is this, everything that you learned so much about flat Earth, why is this not a government psyop right now? Why is the Earth not hollow
moderator.
and they're trying to stop people from going to the middle of the Earth?
Before we move on, moderator Matt, I do want to correct you. Also, thank you, Amir Cuevas, for pointing this out. I actually did hear this as well. The satellites actually don't use relativity. When they attempted to use relativity before, they weren't working. They actually had to hire another guy to fix it, and they wrote a whole book about how they had to fix it without using relativity. So. Your claim that it just works. That's a positive claim. Go ahead and verify that.
Well,
your positive claim that somebody debunked it is the positive claim. And
Well,
if
they
you want
literally
to say
wrote-
that
the guy
mine is
who-
the initial positive claim, then fine. But you made a secondary positive claim.
Sure, whoever was in the match, I guess that's who had to fix it.
But how do you verify that's true?
I mean, just go look up the book. I'm on my phone right now hosting the
How do you
live, so
verify
I
that
can't
that book is
do it
true?
right for you right now.
Or that mercy.
would you verify that that book is true?
People, right? Can we get some like
No,
genuinely
this is how logic
honest
works.
people up in here?
I know this guy's just doing the
Let's talk about
nuts.
some logic.
No,
okay?
it's
in
how
your
logic
model,
works,
you
right?
think-
Why would you? Maybe it's easier to do this.
Oh,
Let's just
man.
talk about what would make a claim believable. Let's start from the basics. When would you believe something is true? What's your level?
What kind
Well,
of question is that?
I know, right? He just wants
It's kind of where's your thinking process in deciding one thing is more probable than the other. If you were to believe something, what would make it true to you? What do you need?
I don't.
preponderance of evidence,
Right.
to put simply.
And that evidence would need to come from where?
Various sources. It wouldn't be able to be coming from just one source.
Various sources. All right. Does it have to be the majority source, the minority source?
No, it just has to be the most verifiable source.
We don't go.
All
for
right. So what makes it
consensus.
verifiable? What makes it verifiable?
Things that you can get your hands on.
So you personally can get your hands on.
if you are able to do it. Now, not necessarily if you're willing to, because some people aren't willing to. I myself
Fine.
find myself in that position a ton. But if I have the ability to go out and verify an observation or an experiment,
But
then I'm
you
more
haven't
likely
done it
to
yet.
then I'm more likely to believe that experiment or observation. Put
So
simply,
you haven't done it yet, but you believe it. So
you don't even
obviously
know.
that's not part of it.
You're being vague as hell, right? Done what?
Yeah, so vague.
You believe this thing because now it is at the point where you believe it. You would have to get evidence
do
for
you
it, but
believe?
already
Hold on, what thing?
Listen,
the thing that you believe in because you believe it. It
What
is something
thing?
that makes it believable
What
to
thing?
you.
Be specific. What thing?
It doesn't have
you,
to be specific.
What thing are you talking about? Like I
Well, this
believe in
would
this.
relate back to flat Earth,
I believe in
right?
this
Obviously,
thing.
because that's what the conversation's about.
Yeah, I believe in this thing, which means that I've either seen experiments or done experiments that are able to be verified by myself and other people. Put simply.
So, for
So-
example, you can look up something called the abyssal plains, and it tells you right on it that 53% of the Earth is flat and smooth. Now, that's just in
there's
consideration
plenty
of
of
the,
observations that are out there debunking the curvature of the Earth. I mean, there's
Yeah,
thousands
there's
of them
lots
out
of
there,
them.
well
And
documented.
there's thousands of
Video.
them that prove that the curvature of the Earth is real.
No, they
No.
don't because they
Actually
don't
not,
isolate all the
because
variables.
it's a myth.
They do.
Right.
No.
And let me ask you something, moderator Matt. You think the horizon
Orbits.
is a physical place?
Pictures, video,
What about
footage, there's
orbits?
all
That's a
kinds
place
of
we can't
tests.
go to. We can't verify ourselves. Let's go to the ground that we're standing on. That
That's
horizon
right.
that you see
In
out
the room
in the
that you're
distance.
sitting in right now. Yep.
Let me ask a question, bro.
Go ahead.
The horizon that you see, do you consider the horizon you see a physical place? That's the
That
curve
you
of
can
the
go
Earth, yes
to?
or no?
Yes. Yes, you can go there.
The horizon you see, you consider that a physical place, the physical curve of the Earth.
You can go to the horizon, correct.
Do you consider it the curve of the Earth, though?
What do you mean, yes? It's the furthest that you can see.
So that's
Okay,
the curve of the Earth. So anything beyond that horizon is curving away from us.
Yes.
All right. So in reality, the horizon is not a physical place, but it's an apparent location, meaning due to atmospheric conditions.
You mean like tomorrow? Like how you
No,
can't,
bro.
tomorrow
Not that
is
far.
real, but you can't be there?
Listen,
No.
let me finish what I'm saying. Stop interrupting, all right? So
Where the
you
horizon
go
is, you
out
can
to
go
the
to it.
shoreline. You go out to the shoreline today, and the horizon, based on the conditions, the temperature, the time of day, and all that, the humidity out there, the horizon the same distance as it be the following day. Say it's colder the next day, so then the horizon is going to be further away. It changes based off temperature, atmospheric conditions. So that just proves right there that the horizon you see is not a physical place, i.e. the curve of the Earth. It's actually perspective, an apparent position, not a physical position. So what do you have
So
to
it
say about
curves the
that?
other way when you look at the horizon?
There is no curve, bro. The horizon's horizontal. Water, what's the surface of the water do? Does
This
it curve
is the
away
So
thing,
from
why
us
would the
all around
temperature
us?
being
No.
hot or
No,
cold change the curve of the Earth then? As you
No,
it
perceive it, if it's
changes
only
the
perceived as
distance.
What are you
flat.
talking about, though? No
Listen,
one's
here's a
observed
good
this
example.
curve.
Some days your weather app will tell you due to fog in the morning, you can only see so many miles in front of you, right? It's like that. So it's not how much the Earth is curving away from us. It's due to the environment, how far away that horizon is going to be from you. It fluctuates. It's not
Well,
at the
there's
same
objects
position
you can
every
see
day.
as well. So if something was on a curved surface and you walk away from it, you'll see it disappear. Is that all just fluctuations in the
Whatever,
air?
man. Can we get
Is that
some
what that's
globies
supposed
in
to
here
be?
that are up to speed? Can we get some
know,
globies
right?
in here up to speed? That'd be great.
This ain't about being up to speed. All three of you guys are
You don't
entwined
even know
in
your
this
own model,
rabbit
dude.
hole. Dude,
You
I know
don't
my
even
own
know your
model,
own
bro.
model.
It's a planet.
What do you know
it's a
about
sphere.
the globe? What's your best proof that you think you live on a spinning water ball in a space vacuum? Give it to me.
Well, I would have to say that it's satellites. And the
Lord
fact
have mercy,
that
bro. We got satellites on balloons. That's your best proof?
it's that we have
Satellites?
satellites, and those satellites tie into companies that are very sought on making money.
Is this
And
your
they could
first
That
give a
is
shit
not
less
proof
about
of a globe.
governments.
That's no proof of a
No,
globe.
but it's all evidence towards the possibility or probability of something being true,
No, that's
which
not
is part
even
of the
evidence,
rationale of
actually.
determining if a claim should be believed or not.
Let's go
Something
back to
flying
the Earth
above.
that we're standing on.
Something flying above the
Trying.
Something flying
People
above
believing
the
the
Earth.
Earth was flat, and then you could go off of it for thousands of years.
What are you talking about, bro?
Can we
No one
stick to a
proving it at
point?
this point. The
Moderator,
entire planet.
moderator, quit gish galloping. Let's actually address one point at a time, right? You're pretty bad at it.
Anyone who believes it's flat could physically go to whatever the edge is and get proof.
You said
There is
satellites.
no
Every
edge.
single one
You
of them.
said satellites were your best proof
Yep.
of the globe. Something flying over.
Satellites and the companies.
Okay, so all things overhead are like in orbit. Like things can't be flying overhead like planes, right? Come on, dude.
It would be the companies that have this technology lying about it, which is also lying to like the government and the people, multiple countries having different phone carriers, and
Yeah,
not a
why
single one
would
of them
the
spilling the
government
beans.
lie to you, bro?
Millions
Oh
of
my
people having
gosh, why would
boats,
the
and not a
government
single
lie?
one getting to the edge. Why would people on the
Oh,
internet
man.
lie to you?
Why would the corporation
Why
lie
would the
to you?
government lie to you? Why would all
Why
the
would all
governments of
this
the world
information
lie?
on the internet lie to you?
Because they
Why
care
would these
about you,
interesting
right?
stories be not true?
It's actually like
Listen, our
challenging.
really
everyday
captivating stories.
observations.
Because the government
Listen,
wants
so
to help us.
let me ask you something. When you're
And there's
watching a
observations
sunset,
for around Earth.
moderator, Matt, whoever you are, when you are watching a sunset, you believe you're falling backwards faster than the speed of sound while you're watching the sunset? That's what you believe?
Do you feel like you're doing 100 in a car while it's doing 100?
Yep.
What the fuck? Yeah,
Absolutely.
bro.
That's
You don't.
pretty
When
You
you're
don't
in
crazy.
that
feel like
car
you're
and you
not
look
moving?
over at your passenger, how much faster are they going than you?
You're not sucking into that seat, bro, and turn that car a little bit. You're not gonna feel it. Do me a favor. Go take your car 100 miles an hour and have a plate of water. Have a dish, a dinner plate. Put a little bit of water on that dinner plate, right? And go 100 miles an hour, and then bank to the left a little bit, and tell me if that water is not gonna slosh off that dinner plate.
But is the
Thank you.
air going
Thank
with you?
Thank you.
Is the air
Thank
going
you.
with you at thousands of miles, hundreds of miles, whatever it is?
Put the windows
If
up.
the
The
air
water will
around
still
you
slosh off.
and the ground around you and the car around you are all at thousands of miles an hour,
Not
Are you
all
gonna
one
feel it?
motion, bro. You're going at all
No,
these
we're
different
wobbling.
It's not all
unfathomable speeds at the
speeding
same
up.
time. It actually is. It's
Yeah,
an elliptic
we're
orbit,
already doing that
and it
speed.
slows down and speeds up. Yeah, so it is.
my chat's tearing you up on YouTube. This is so funny. Your
Yeah,
whole
he's getting
premise,
ripped
That's
up.
all right.
your whole premise, moderator
Dude.
Matt, is that you just can't imagine the lie. It's pretty funny.
No, that's not
No,
the
he
premise.
can imagine
There's
the
multiple
lie.
different factors that you pull together to say that the Earth is a sphere. It could be the planets out there. It could be the interaction between the moon and Earth and the tides.
Yeah,
it
but you
could
won't
be the
isolate.
moon and
Moderator,
the sun.
moderator. With all due
You don't
respect,
need to isolate
yes,
one
you
thing. Not
absolutely-
every experiment you can isolate.
All right, so if we isolated each one of those things and we found that that particular thing was not demonstrable proof of the thing that you think it is, then that would basically debunk your whole point. You think that the things that you're bringing up are 100% slam dunk, knock it out of the park evidence. You literally said that something floating above us is proof of the shape of what we're living on, and that is absolutely
How it
ridiculous.
floats above us, its path it takes, the
Well,
moon
the
orbiting
teacups are
us, and the
round,
calculations
the
between it.
teapot is round, and the tea bag's
Three of you
round.
guys
Don't worry.
echoing chambering, like that's cool and all, but
I
doesn't
would like
make that
for-
your point is.
I would love for some
accurate.
Globers to hop in and help you out. You really need
Yeah,
it.
you need real.
Sure,
help,
bro.
serious.
I mean, in your world where you think that like actual evidence isn't evidence, but the way that you judge
guys got
evidence,
no evidence.
it's flawed.
I mean, well, you hand waved away the electromagnetic propagation over a flat Earth. We have literal technology that depends on the Earth being flat, but we'll just hand wave that away.
No, it doesn't depend on the Earth being flat. It does not.
Hey, dude just
And if
found
that
out what an
electrostatic
anti-grav machine is.
energy applied to something that was on Earth, it could have the same effect.
Your very survival depends on the Earth being flat. What are you talking about?
Dude just found out what a Van de Graaff
No.
machine is, and he's trying to tell us.
I know.
I
it's
could
super
care
funny.
less.
It's just
Bro.
funny.
That's not the thing that proves. And you would also have to prove that that experiment was legitimate.
Well, listen. Here's the thing.
Listen,
You said
you're gonna have to
satellites
go
were your proof
against-
of a globe. Hold on. You said that satellites were your proof of a globe. So basically, you're saying we have this technology that depends on the Earth being a globe. And I'm saying, dude, we have a technology that depends on the Earth being flat. If your level of evidence, your best level of evidence was satellites, then
Cell phones, the
obviously,
companies,
obviously,
thousands of companies
they
international.
use ground towers. Actually, admittedly, you don't understand the patents. You're just making false claims because you think you know something.
Towers,
But here's the
underwater
actual
They own the
truth.
ground
Here's the
towers all
here's the
over the
actual
planet?
truth. Yeah, here's the actual truth of how it works. Not only ground towers, but they also launch up thousands of balloons, admittedly, a day. Not just NASA, all over the world, they launch thousands and thousands of balloons.
Yeah,
Enough balloons
those
really
companies-
to not even go. You can't even go like 200 miles out and not hit another balloon. There's gonna be
Like-
another balloon
Like,
everywhere.
haven't you heard of Chinese spy balloons that get shot down because they're rogue?
Yeah, I've heard of Chinese spy balloons and stuff.
Are
Oh,
you
you
aware
got
that
some.
Where the
NASA buys all the
Lord or
helium
something?
and launches up
The
balloons like he says?
the cavalry has arrived. We got Mike Splain and Lawn Dart jumping on in.
Oh, lawn dart.
We're gonna try our best since we got a full panel. I want to remind everybody to not interrupt. Where everybody's gonna want to say a piece here. I know we've been going on for a bit. Welcome, Mike Splain, Lawn Dart. Thanks for coming on. Let's be cordial.
Hello. Hello.
To the chamber.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What is going on? Thanks for coming on.
So you're just saying that the globe doesn't exist despite all the preponderance of evidence, but
What evidence?
flat Earth does?
Hundreds.
My goodness. So to get specific with it,
No, just
moderator
answer the
Matt.
question. Just
Moderator Matt was
tell
saying
me.
that the best evidence of the globe was satellites, a technology that would depend on the Earth being a globe. I'm saying that our best evidence would probably be, in light of that, would be the fact that we have technology that depends on the Earth being obviously, you know what I'm referring to, the electromagnetic propagation of waves over a flat Earth. Now, there is several other manuals, but this one's probably one of the best ones to use. So if we have technology that actually depends on the Earth being flat, right? And you guys have technology that it depends on the Earth being globe, then we'd have to come to a standstill and admit that neither of our evidences is
Well,
proof one way or the other, right?
And I
Yeah,
can show you
well,
gunnery intelligence that says the same thing.
And that's me being nice about it,
so
by
you
the
want
way.
so
Our
do you want me to
technology is
interact?
verifiable, yours is not.
Do you want me to interact with that?
Yeah, go
Yep.
for it.
So your proof of your flat Earth evidence can also be used on a globe Earth. So what says you?
It's modeled over a flat plane, so there you
Well, I
go.
know, but could also, a flat plane. How big is
You
this
can't do it
plane?
without you can't do it without begging the question and assuming multiple layers of different bouncing things, ducting, scattering, actually multiple different
How
phenomena
big?
to explain why all the different forms of electromagnetic propagation all work off of line of sight. Or you could just assume that it's line of sight propagation. Your
Well,
pick.
how big is this plane that you're speaking of?
Doesn't matter. Ask the military.
No, it does. No, it does matter.
It's in the document. Go ask the military.
Okay,
You,
so
what's the
you're using proof that you don't even know the answer to. Is that what you're saying?
It doesn't matter. It works off a line of sight. You're trying to say that it works off of going around a curve and bouncing off of shit.
If it's line of sight, then what's a radar horizon?
It's super funny. The radar horizon question. There's attenuation. The radar things don't go forever, and the radar horizon is much further than the geometric horizon. So that debunks that it has anything to do with Earth curve. And the radar horizon actually changes depending on the strength of the signal that you're using.
You do realize radar is a two-way path, out and back again?
What does that have to do with the price of tea?
Explanation. Let's go back to that.
It's not ad hoc. It's not an ad hoc explanation. It's the
No,
explanation.
it's your explanation. Go back to it. What does attenuation have to do with there being a radar horizon that is in the lower half of the radar's line of sight, but not the upper half?
Let's trade answers. I'll answer that if you can answer why the radar horizon changes based on the strength of radar that you're using and why it doesn't correlate to the geometric horizon.
When you demonstrate that that's the case, I will. I've got a radar in my yacht. I use it regularly.
I mean, this is just common knowledge. Like, again, I'm on my phone right now. I'm not sure how
Well,
you'd want me
common
to
knowledge.
pull
If
up,
we want to use
pull
common
this up
knowledge,
for you.
common knowledge is that Earth is a globe. If we're going to use common knowledge,
That's super funny.
Let's
if you've
just
got an
appeal to
explanation for-
consensus.
if you've got an explanation for a radar horizon that isn't just ad hoc, bring it up. Because I don't have one that doesn't involve Earth's horizon.
I mean, I clearly explained it. You hand waved it. You just hand waved it away.
You
So
said that the
No,
curve is.
I dismissed it.
I'm not.
because
I'm not.
it didn't
Yeah,
feel-
exactly. A dismiss is a hand wave. I'm not just
Yes.
going to go in circles with you.
No,
So you
No,
say
no,
the
it didn't
curve is
explain it.
apparent. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry, I thought you were done.
no, go on, Mike.
You say the curve is apparent, but is this flat? The edge of this flat apparent plane is can you go find that?
Yeah,
The
if I
horizon
could.
is always apparent, not the curve. It's the horizon is an apparent place, not a physical location. Yes,
On a
on the
globe.
flat Earth as well. On both.
So on the flat Earth, it would make sense to be like a physical thing, but you're saying it's apparent.
It's
No.
admitted to be apparent. In
So that
both
kinda
models,
self-
it's supposed to be apparent.
That kind of self debunks itself then.
Hardcore. The whole claim is that the sphere is
Well,
that the horizon is at the
debunks.
sphere edge of the horizon. Sorry, the claim is that the horizon is the leading edge of the sphere. If it's admittedly the apparent thing, right? The horizon is apparent; it changes due to things like refraction and atmospheric conditions. Then that would mean that it's not the leading edge of the sphere, which would be a
No,
globe debunk, not a flat Earth
it's
debunk.
it's caused by the
Okay.
edge of the
Well,
sphere.
your mate just said that that flat Earth had an apparent horizon
It
too.
does. Yeah, that's because
So
we see in
once wait wait
hyperbolic
wait wait.
geometry.
I didn't interrupt you. So it must mean that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if you have an apparent horizon, debunked.
That's just you failing to understand the point. Sorry.
I mean, I get.
I
Was
mean,
my
sorry,
reader
not
wrong?
sorry. You
Dawson
just
do
clearly don't
research something like
understand
that?
why. You clearly don't understand why an apparent horizon is not a problem for a flat Earth, and it is a problem for the
I've
globe.
got a huge problem with it not being
Well, see, even
a
the
physical.
location, the stars, the sun, and the moon, and the horizon themselves are all
Is it
affected by
something that's in your
refraction and light
mind?
bending,
Is there
right?
like something in your mind that I have to search for to find the edge of
Can
this
we get
flat Earth?
any people who can address claims specifically and
Yeah,
not just be ridiculous with it?
let's look at your model. It's good.
You know that
Let's
that's
dive
not an
into your model,
answer.
bro.
No, I'm asking you a question. I wasn't
Mike,
answering
explain.
anything.
You know that that question isn't a genuine question.
No, it is because you're
Is
saying
there
it's
something in
apparent.
your mind that I
You're
have to
saying
search for? That's ridiculous.
you're,
You know what an
sir,
apparent horizon is.
sir. With all due
Don't play
respect,
dumb with me.
you are saying that it's apparent in both cases. So why couldn't we trust the apparent one on the globe case as well? Explain
Well,
that
it's
to
not
me.
that you can't trust that it's an apparent horizon. It's that your horizon is supposed to be the proof of the actual curve of the geometry of the Earth. If the horizon is actually not a physical thing, if it's a optical thing, an apparent thing, then the math behind your sphere ball that you claim to live on can no longer claim to be accurate. It has a set horizon that can be no
Why didn't you
more than
say
a
yeah?
certain
It's something in
distance.
our mind. I asked you. You said it was a disingenuous
No, it's
question,
not
but
something.
yet here you are
Apparent doesn't
saying
mean
yeah,
something in your
it's in your
mind,
mind.
Mike explained.
It's a
It doesn't mean
visual.
something in your mind.
Visual is
No,
in
it's
your
not.
mind.
Visual does not mean in your
The
mind,
definition
you
for
doofus. Sorry
apparent
for the name
horizon.
calling.
Sorry. Just give us a
So what
definition
does
for
it
the
mean?
apparent horizon real quick.
Anyway,
Because I just looked it up and
Yeah.
it sounds like it has to deal with light, but it's light at a point that would be the furthest point you can see on a sphere. But go ahead, give your definition real quick.
thanks for having me up. By the way, I gotta go.
Oh,
I
thanks,
gotta
Mike
go
Well,
do
how
explained.
live.
does it
More.
change
All right,
on
see
a
ya.
sphere versus a flat Earth model? Like, do you think you can
Research
see
flat Earth.
further on a flat
Identify
Earth
what it
model?
is so everybody's on the same page. Go ahead, man. I'm assuming host, since he brought it up, has the best explanation. Apparent horizon.
Ex-
Go ahead.
Apparent horizon. Yeah, it's the place that you think the horizon is. It's the place where the sky and the ground meet. And it changes based on refraction, based on atmos conditions, various things. How bright it is
Has
Temperature,
nobody
outside.
taken
humidity,
an art
biases of the
class?
observer,
Like, good
I
lord.
know, right? I'm out of tea. Sucks.
internal
So the
errors,
distortion of
external
where the
errors.
horizon is and where you see it, basically.
No, so it's actually the the idea that the horizon is a physical place, right? There is no physical place where the sky and the ground meet ever. It's
What
not a
what
thing. It's
why
always an
would
apparent place.
why would that be anywhere other than eye level on flat Earth?
What do you mean?
So actually, I just read that definition. So it's where light stops going upwards and only goes downwards, meaning that it hits the surface and it never bounces back out towards you. So on a
You
flat Earth, wouldn't there always be light coming down and bouncing from as far as you can see? And no matter what, that
No,
light will always have an upward direction?
because
Definition, bro.
refracting. It's not always refracting. And by the way, why don't you go ahead and put that in the Wayback Machine and tell me what that definition said a couple months ago, a year ago, hell, even 10 years ago. I guarantee you that that's not the definition it started with.
So your definition is that the horizon, or where you're seeing, that's not the real
It's
horizon because of what?
What do you mean the real horizon? The horizon is the place where the sky
It's an
and the ground
apparent
meet
horizon. Yep.
to the observer.
To the observer, right? So you perceive that, but that's not what it is what you're saying?
Why do you keep trying to put words in my mouth? That is literally the only
Sorry.
thing that we have for a horizon. That is the only thing the horizon can be is apparent.
But can you see everything on that flat Earth? Can you see past that horizon in your flat Earth model?
I mean, sometimes you can see a little further than the horizon. Sometimes you can see a little not as far. The horizon is changing, and that's
I
also a
got you.
proof that it's an apparent place.
So picture a completely flat plane, and you have light coming down from above. As that light comes down, unless it's coming down at an exact 90-degree angle, you're going to have some light that has bounce. So any of that light that has bounce with the apparent horizon, which is about light, you seeing it, all of that is going to make it to your eye on that flat surface. You're going to see all of that.
What?
No,
You will see past the horizon because that light would still bounce to your eye. It is bouncing
no,
off
because
of
you're
the
not.
flat surface that's over there.
Okay, so you must
What
be
happens to the light?
moderator Matt. Do you know anything about Riley's principle or Riley scattering?
What's Rayleigh scattering? That when the light comes through the atmosphere, it bounces off particles?
No, it has nothing to do with that. Riley scattering is literally the optical effect that happens when you have light. Basically, you can see it with the horizon. When this can be demonstrated with a warehouse experiment, two weights, camera sliding at various distances on the ground, viewing these, you can actually see the bottom of these weights begin to blur. The whole thing begin to blur from the top up, right? So it's almost like it's creating a downward disappearance like you would see on a curve, and it also has the effect of dropping the apparent horizon. Rayleigh scattering is just a light effect. It's what happens when you have multiple photons of light coming in at the same angle, blurring and scattering each other out so that they no longer make it to the lens.
Every time I've seen that demonstration, the floor has been curved. I'm sorry, but I've never seen a warehouse floor demonstration where something disappeared from the bottom up that the floor wasn't curved.
Where are you at where your floor is curved?
Every
First of
time.
all,
There's
Or it wouldn't
50
be
of
curved.
them on
We built
YouTube,
it
and
flat.
it's due to perspective. None of you took an art class. When things go away
Yes,
from
I
you,
did.
they will
They get
disappear from
smaller.
the bottom up. That's how
They get
this works.
smaller.
It's perspective, and the
They get
horizon is
smaller.
the vanishing point. It is where
Pull
the
up any
top meets the bottom.
False.
pull up any
No,
pull up
in,
any art text you like that
I got
says that, and I'll listen to you.
in an art class,
You
your
won't listen
point of
to anything,
perspective
obviously.
always is to a point. It's infinitely to that point.
Yes.
That's how the art works. It
So
doesn't
that
disappear at the
doesn't
bottom.
make it. It doesn't make it
No,
Yeah,
no, no.
so your art reference is
You're
terrible.
never understanding what's being said. You guys are like, I seen Globy make globe
When you
face in
draw
here. Why don't you
perspective,
jump
you
up?
draw to a point in art.
Selectively and tactfully dishonest.
Right, exactly.
No. I attended art class, and perspective does not say that something will disappear bottom up ever. I've never been taught that. If you're claiming that someone taught you that, show me where they taught you that.
So
There's plenty of
probably failed art,
demonstrations
that's
showing.
fine. So we can go back to the horizon, bro. Go ahead.
I mean, until you guys look up Riley scattering, I think it's pointless.
I've read it. It doesn't explain what you're saying.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
So you
It really
guys,
does.
subscribe. You know, you're looking it up yourself, and they're saying there's no physical horizon, no physical horizon, no physical globe.
The horizon that we see is the horizon because we see it. We call it the horizon, but it's just the edge of the earth.
When you first jumped
is
on, you
here.
said that the horizon was the curve of the earth.
The horizon shows the curve of the earth, correct.
Oh, now you're just contradicted what you just said.
The horizon would show the curve of the earth?
The horizon, Lord have mercy, you're not even making any sense, man. The horizon
Bro.
is not a physical place, so it cannot show you the curve of the earth.
Is tomorrow a physical place?
Wow, bro, you are drowning right
We
now.
call it the horizon, but it's the edge of the
painful.
planet. We can
But
see
it's
the edge
an
of the
apparent
planet.
place. If it's apparent and not physical, how is it the physical curve of the earth?
The circumference of the planet exists. That circumference
Prove it.
exists.
No, it doesn't.
Prove
Next
the-
question.
The curve of the earth. You're saying the horizon doesn't exist because if you go
Not
there,
the physical, the
it changes.
physical horizon. The horizon is
question.
not the curve. It's not the curve. It's an apparent location. It changes due to atmospheric conditions and
According
temperature.
to
All right,
your-
hey, we're going in
No,
circles.
according to
Let's go
reality,
ahead
bro.
and pull it back in. I'm gonna welcome
Based on
on. I'm gonna welcome on. I can't read your first name, Prince.
SC and
Welcome to the
Rockland.
show.
Yeah, what's up, man? Hey, I just have a quick question because I'm trying to get some facts clear. How far is the horizon on in the flat Earth model? Because that seems
Varies.
to be one of those elusive questions. How far is the horizon on a flat Earth model? How far is it before things start to disappear before this
Just like on
apparent
the
horizon?
just like on the globe Earth, it changes based on the conditions.
So things. So you say objects beyond this horizon, they completely disappear, like like go behind anything. Like say, because on the curve Earth, the idea of things disappearing is because it actually goes behind something physical, which is the curve of the Earth. You're saying on
Indeed.
FE, it doesn't. It just disappears into
Correct.
some vanishing point. Okay, so how
Correct.
far is the sun when that disappears behind this
Changes
whatever?
based on the day. I just
Oh, so
told you
it
it changes
changes
based on the
based on the
day.
day. So
Yeah.
so
Can I offer an evidence that proves that it's an apparent place that changes? I mean, obviously, and that it can't possibly be a physical hump leading of a sphere edge. I mean, we actually do have a demonstration, the Rock Lake experiments, 4 lights a foot high over frozen lake, and all 4 of these lights appear in a straight line to the camera to the observer, and the camera is only a foot and a half high. So you have a foot and a half observer height, foot height for the 4 lights that are 8 miles away from the observer, and the lights are also stationed a mile apart from each other. So, what kind of refraction do you think would be going on there to make that a ball?
My
well,
bad. You said
lights
8 miles.
spread out, so it wouldn't matter how far they are in distance if you're looking across whatever distance you're looking towards it. Light spread out, so you're still going to see it, unless it's like a very focused beam, which is
In a
impossible in
straight
most
line?
cases.
Oh, so you mean to tell me that
Light
we're going to
doesn't
see
travel in a straight
4?
line. Light spreads out.
I know, but we're seeing 4 separate lights. Try to follow along here and actually answer this part
Very much, I am.
specifically. 4 light sources, right? We're seeing 4 light sources in a straight line from a 1 foot high observer height.
What do you mean by a straight line? In line with the observer or across the observer's field of view? You said
In
they were
line with
all
the camera. In line with the
Should be,
Well,
camera.
when we say
Like
straight, you
literally.
guys think curves, though.
it should be level, is what you're trying to say. That would be the only way.
Well, it's not completely level because the camera is a foot and a half up and the lights are only a foot high. So there's a little bit, it's not completely level.
Like, how would you not do it level?
Yeah, why wouldn't you have them at the same height?
How if the flat
Who said
plane
they
you
were at a
do it
different
level,
height?
because that's the whole point.
You did just then.
You said
The
1 foot and
lights are
6
at the
foot.
same height. The camera's at 1 foot
Yeah,
or
why wouldn't the
1.5 feet.
Why wouldn't
All
the
right. So
camera
what
be
are
the
making
same
the
height?
measurements?
So they made the measurements on the actual tape measure, cone. You put the light on the cone. You drill down to make sure that there's water underneath. You measure up. You make sure that everything's at the same height. I mean, why do I have to explain how this was? Just go and watch the
No,
video.
not the height of the devices. What measured the levelness of those 2 lasers?
They're not lasers. They're just lights.
Yeah, I understand.
Lights? What, like
I
flashlights
understand.
that spread out?
No, they're like flare lights.
What's it called?
Flare
What's
lights that spread out light?
Is there a name for this host that we can look up?
Yeah, it's called the Rock Lake experiment. I believe you can still find it on Flat Earth Explorers on YouTube.
Where was the camera in this?
I'll have a look.
It was on the lake as well.
In the middle at one side, the other side, like where at?
8 miles away from the lights on the other side of the lake. Not all the
So,
way. Like there's still water underneath. They drill.
Okay.
They check for water so that you know.
Right.
So you guys subscribe to a big hump of water on that lake, right?
Yeah.
A hump of water on top of the lake? What?
No,
No,
big
the
hump of
reason
water
they use the lake.
in
know.
between the shorelines.
I know what you mean.
That's not
yeah.
how it works, guy. That's not how it works.
Yeah, water lays flat, right?
No,
it's level.
no, Mello. That's not how it works.
Oh, tell me, enlighten me then.
I mean, it's out there too. I mean, you seem to know it more than anybody else, but it's pretty obvious.
So are we going to
how it's
deny that
described.
water? We denying the properties of water right now?
I think what you're denying is the understanding of what level is. That's what I'm denying. I don't think you understand what level means.
They were
Level
level,
means
right?
curve to you?
Saying.
Level means
Did I say
curve,
did I
or it
say
means
level means curve?
perpendicular. It means
Stop!
Like,
I think
stop
level
putting words in my
means
mouth.
the
Don't
same
put words in my mouth.
elevation
Don't
regardless.
put words in
Can
my
I
mouth.
speak?
First.
Can I speak?
Don't
For
put words.
myself, not you. I'm speaking for myself. Level means the same elevation between 2 points regardless of distance.
Ah. Exactly. I'm glad you understand that. 2 points. It didn't say anything about flat. Go ahead. Okay, moving forward.
Oh God. Oh God.
Lord have
All
The tool
right.
mercy, you
itself would
guys.
need to be leveled. That's the point. The tool itself would have to be leveled at both locations. Assuming that the water is level, you would have a straight line between the laser and whatever's measuring it. That's the whole point of the experiment. But you'd have to make sure both of those things are level. And you're already on a lake, which you assume water is level. So that's how the experiment works. So if that experiment
Water
lines up,
is level.
no one's saying it's not. You listening, bro?
You guys are.
I'm not, dude. See, that's what homeboy's saying. You're fucking, excuse my language. You're putting words in other people's mouths. You don't need to do that. I'm agreeing. Water
Okay,
is
no, I'm
level. That's
sorry. You're
why they
saying
did this
level means
experiment.
curve. Level doesn't. So
Bruh.
let me
Nobody
ask
says
you
level
something.
means
Let me ask
curve.
you
Nobody
something.
ever says
Let
level
me
means
ask
curve.
you
All
something.
right,
Go
level
ahead.
means level, guys.
Intelligently, please.
When you can see from the shoreline, say you can see the horizon out there a few miles. So from your feet all the way to that horizon, that water is flat. It doesn't start curving away
It's not
until that
flat.
horizon, right? Or it's
No, it's
curving this
not
whole
flat.
time.
It's
Curves
covering the
from your
whole
feet.
time. Correct.
And you're in an airplane. You
Okay.
can also see it.
Airplanes fly over the earth plane, my guy.
No, that's the word
Straight
plane.
and level. Straight and level. They do not dip their nose. They fly straight and level for
They
miles.
fly level.
in a
You're right about
plane.
that. They fly level.
The old plane dipping.
Man,
its
can we
nose,
get some
okay.
honest people
According
up
to
in here?
altitude. According to
And
altitude, they fly level.
in a
Not
circular
according to
world,
that.
in a globe world, level is this pointed towards the center of the earth.
Yeah, you can
Level
beg the
with the
question.
center of gravity.
Right, you can definitely
That is
beg
how
the
we
question
describe
and say that it's bending around a curve, correct? But
Or
if
can
you if you're just dealing with all intensive purposes terrestrially, level does literally mean flat. So
I need to be honest. Don't want to keep this. At least the definition should
You could
be
have a flat
parallel to the
45
ground.
degree. You could have a 45-degree sheet of metal that is flat, but that doesn't mean that it is level.
exactly
Third
why
curve.
level can't mean flat.
Correct. Yeah.
Was that a question?
Doesn't mean it's
Asking
earth
people
curve.
who believe in the globe if there's a curve? Ask your question, bro. Did you ask,
Did
is
you
there
ask-
a curve?
I'm hearing crickets.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything.
What's the question?
My bad. Is anybody hearing me? Anybody like lawn dart can hear me at all?
Yep, can hear you. Yep.
I can hear you now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
okay.
Okay, that was weird. Yeah, ask your question again, bro. Was it mellow? I don't. All right, whatever. Somebody said something stupid. Anyway, there's going back to like why you believe in something, and the reason a claim should be believed is the amount of corresponding evidence towards that thing. And while you can dig in one level and say that this electromagnetism experiment that somebody did seems right, in the same way you can go in a plane with a level. It's called a level, but a bubble inside of a ball or whatever. So if you go on the plane, you're like, oh, this plane stayed level the whole time. Well, it would also stay level the whole time that you're going around the planet, because that's what level is. The plane would stay level with the planet, stay at the same elevation.
That's
But
the
here,
elevation,
last
that's
point on
not
that.
level, bro.
When you take that experiment that you personally did, and then you say, oh, look, I found it. It's evidence of a flat surface, because in my mind, this is level. Level means flat, and this is how it works out. So you know what? Everything else that exists, I believe it now. So all the different studies by organizations or YouTube videos of guys doing things, you found something that you think is only evidence of a flat surface. And so now the rest of the conclusion is begged by that original premise that, yes, this exists and I believe it.
I said originally that it's preponderance of evidence, but a good place to start would be with the strongest point. So, and I was just going with what you felt would be the strongest point, which was technology that depended on the shape, right? Since you brought up satellites, so I think I think that there's actually much more evidence that the Earth is flat. For example, I mean, and for one, if you want to start about like why we believe things and preponderance of evidence and yada yada, obviously we start by proving the things that are positive and the things that are out of the ordinary from observations, right? Obviously, unless you're begging the question of the sky, right? We see the sky curving, right? Without that, you don't really have anything that tells you that the Earth is curving, right or wrong.
It's like the Earth curving.
Well, you could take a high-powered laser and shoot it across the surface. And if it's strong enough to resist Riley's scattering, you'd see it a lot further away.
We do. We've done it.
Where's that at?
This is 110 kilometers. Lake Tadahiki.
I've seen an interesting experiment when someone actually took a picture of the horizon just on any given day, where it looks flat generally to our eyes, but what they did afterwards, they compressed it by width. And when they compressed it to make it very narrow, you saw a visible curve. like a hump in the actual
Hey,
picture.
guess what?
And
I
that was
can do that with the top of my table. I can take a picture of the
well,
side view of
we're
my
talking about
table,
the
which
Earth,
is
not the top of a
obviously
table.
flat.
No,
Listen,
tables
Let
aren't
him
flat.
finish.
I can
Obviously,
compress. Can I finish what I'm saying? My
sense. It's
table,
stupid
the
shit.
surface of my table is flat. Are we going to deny that? No,
Yes, we're
it's
gonna deny
flat.
that.
I
Yes,
took
we're
a
gonna deny
picture
that.
of it. I took a side picture of it,
With a
and I
level,
compressed it. And
take a
guess what?
picture
My
with a level.
table's actually curved.
And it
Take
ain't
a
flat.
picture with a
It is
level,
curved. It is curved.
and then show us it's flat. Yeah.
Prince,
No,
with
I
all due
didn't. I'll do it. What are you talking about, bro?
Prince,
Sling.
with all due respect, it was done with a table and then it was done with a line in paint, right? Surely you won't say that the straight line in paint, right, is going to be crooked or somehow
What's it
off.
painted
So,
on? What's
Sling,
it
It
painted
Sling.
can
on?
be crooked.
Actually, I am going to
What's
say
it
that.
painted on?
I am
That's
going to say it.
It can
ridiculous.
Sling,
be.
That is
your
absolutely
table,
Yes.
ridiculous.
your
That's
table.
That's the
what
whole
it's
point.
painted
No,
on.
forget the
It's
When you
not
table.
about
compress
A straight
measurements.
line
It's
in
hard to
paint.
the
tell
straight
whether it's
line, when
normally
you
straight.
did that,
That's why we use levels in the
I
first
got you.
place, because it's
What
difficult to
is the
tell if someone's
what's the
straight.
line?
It's
Tribune,
because
we're
of the
arguing with
lens.
people that
I
deny
know.
reality.
I know.
Sling,
Well, I don't think that they're
And like
necessarily
these
educated
globbies
on
are
this
like
part.
years behind, bro.
Sling, I
These
Yeah,
got
what
you.
globbies
I
are
got you.
years behind.
what
Sling,
is
I
the
got you,
line
bro.
painted on, host? What is the line painted on?
Paint, like literally paint.
No,
It wasn't
what
literally
Paint,
what's
painted,
the
painted paint on
hand
paint
paint.
on?
painted. It was literally like clicked and pulled to draw a straight line. Like you can
On
do it
what?
manually to where there's
On
no
what?
not like where you're having to draw it like handwritten, but like where you're clicking 2 points and it draws a
Onto
perfectly
what?
straight line between
On
2 points.
what?
Oh my
Onto
God!
what?
In paint for
On
the
what?
third time
Paint doesn't hover in
on a
the air.
computer. On a computer, oh my God! The
On a
program Paint.
Microsoft Paint.
Thank
So
you.
you drew a
You said
straight
it was
Yes.
line in
before.
paint
You didn't say
on
you said it was
pixels
paint
on a
by the
monitor.
program.
And when you compressed it, it had a curve. The pixels had a curve.
So the
Can we
reason
see
why it
that?
has curve geniuses is
Yeah.
because the lens of the thing that you're taking a picture, the thing that you're taking a picture with, the lens is curved. So it's going to pronounce whatever curvature there is, even though the object itself is not curved. This is demonstrably easy
So,
to demonstrate.
so what
So
about
if
when
you
I'm
look
looking
up
at it with
something
my
called
eyes?
barrel distortion, it's created by wide angle lenses, right? And a dead curvature barrel distortion is a curved horizon.
What
Anybody in
about when I'm
photography
looking at
should
it
know
And
that
without
here's how
it?
basic
you
stuff.
and here's how you prove that experiment is correct. You have a what they call a control. So you have an actual straight line, like a ruler or something like that, to put alongside with the horizon to
They
prove that when you think through these things, it's controlled.
Compress the image,
Prove.
it is distorted.
Listen
When you
to me
compress the
first
image,
before you
it's
understand me.
distorted.
You're not understanding me. If I said if you have a control
You are
in
distorting
the
the image
image,
when you
like a
compress it,
straight,
bro.
oh boy, you
the
are
paint
just
No, oh
was
boy,
terrible.
nothing. Like we
bro.
Oh
don't
The
need to
boy,
paint line.
compress an image
Hold on,
to.
oh boy. Did I say
This
Melano, calm
is
down
compress?
for a
Did I say
ridiculous.
second.
compress?
Calm
Yeah,
Did
I'm
I
down.
gonna
say
mute up.
compress?
Prince, 1 second, bro.
Okay.
The straight line in paint was the control, my friend. That was
Okay.
the definitely straight line. That's why we use paint to be able to do it 100% with software instead of having to rely on humans drawing it straight because that's subject
Yeah.
to error, right? So
What you're saying is fair.
so
What
that
you're
was
saying
the
is fair.
control.
I listen to what you're saying, and I have to actually verify that experiment myself by doing it myself. That's the best way to do it.
Yes.
But
But
yeah,
that doesn't prove anything.
Well,
it
he
doesn't necessarily prove or
It's
disprove anything, but it's
it
something to consider that we need to have a proper control.
It's what it is a debunk of the claim, Shady, that you just brought forward that if you
It's
take a
not a
picture
debunk.
of the hold on, if you take a picture of the horizon and then compress it, that's pronouncing the Earth curve. That would happen literally with anything, even
It would not
straight
happen with
lines,
anything.
perfectly verifiably straight
That's
lines.
that's being disingenuous. I wouldn't say it didn't happen to anything. What we have to do
Any
is
straight line.
confirm, because there's something called lenticular lenses. Lenticular lenses show all lines straight, and is used for specific measurements to have all lines appear straight no matter what. There is no
Yeah, but
distortion in lenticular lenses.
hold on,
So
but you and I both know that that's not the type of lens most likely that was used for that observation. It was probably
absolutely,
just
and
a
that's
regular
why,
lens.
assuming that that's not a debunk. That's my point. It doesn't debunk. All you did is show that, okay, there's more measurements that has to be taken, but it doesn't debunk anything. So it's like, okay, now you know what, we have to redo this experiment. Now let's do the lenticular lens and do the same thing. If it shows up to be a curve, then hey, we can move forward.
Well,
That's
even
all I'm saying.
rectilinear lenses supposedly have a very, very slight distortion.
But if we know what they have no distortion.
I doubt that your table's flat, bro.
Oh my
You would
god.
have to say that.
I seriously doubt your table. You take a picture of your table and you
Admittedly,
compress it, it'll be curved.
admittedly, if we verified 100% beyond the shadow of a doubt that the table was 100% level, and then we also proved that when you use even a rectilinear lens, it will still cause a curvature when you compress the image, because that's just what happens when you compress it, then you guys would still say that that initial observation is proof of the globe somehow, because the globers have a famous tendency to forget everything that gets said during these conversations and then repeat the same things. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had to repeat an explanation for sunsets. I mean, there's videos of how it can work on a flat earth multiple different ways. There's literally the admission, right, that we do not see in Euclidean geometry. We have something called anti-crepuscular rays that even the globe model invokes a sphere, a hemisphere of vision around us, right? The sphere around you that you see is not dictated by the sphere of the earth that you are living on. That's not how it works. It's hyperbolic space that you're seeing in, and that's why things are curving in the sky away as they go away from you, regardless of if it would be a curved surface or a flat surface. The thing that's damning for the globe is that you would have more pronounced drop, instead of just the drop due to hyperbolic space and perspective. But none of that's ever calculated in. There is no calculation for perspective the way that we actually see in hyperbolic space when doing globe maths.
Can you explain hyperbolic space, please?
For how light reacts in the atmosphere. There are
Yeah, spherical hyperbolic space is simply spherical geometry, spherical geometric space that we see in from the observer. You can look at it when it's non-Euclidean. Euclidean assumes that all the light coming at the observer is coming in straight lines, like you see in orthographic. Seeing those pictures of lighthouse here and observer here, and they use these straight lines to see, look, everything would be perfectly fine, and you would be able to see forever on a flat earth. That same view is Euclidean geometry. It's actually been debunked. We don't see in that. The straight lines actually curve.
So
depending on
straight
where
lines and how we observe it is all about light. And the sun that rotates around this flat surface, why is it that this light hits the earth in a longitudinal way and not a widespread sphere like a light bulb?
What do you mean, like a longitude, like it's a more focused light? Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how bright you want to call it, depending on how far away it is. I don't have an exact model for the height of the sun, right? But it could vary. If the sun was
the December solstice, how does that happen?
Yeah, so all of that can be explained with coffee caustics.
What's that mean?
So you have a light phenomena that you see in coffee cups. You can look it up. Basically, what happens is the light pattern that you see in a coffee cup from any light source coming in, how it kind of fans out and spreads out, is exactly like you would see, or what you would expect to see the light pattern to spread out over a flat earth. And it can change based on where the sun's position is at. So
what's the cup got to do with it? The rim affects
the
light.
The air exists above the cup. I mean, it's the air that we're talking about. It's not a physical flat liquid or anything like that. We're seeing it through the atmosphere, the sun and the light coming to us. That's what we're observing.
No, I thought he was talking about like the daylight hours, why we're seeing the daylight hours be the way that they are, and then he brought up the solstice. So I thought we were talking about the way it changes throughout the year.
I'm talking about day-night cycle, but the light passes around that horizon. The light travels along the horizon, which is on a longitudinal line, and it's not in a sphere shape. Like if you had a light bulb,
I think you got confused. That doesn't longitudinal and it travels latitude. So it's not going to be going up and down.
I'm saying that the light across the horizon, the people who get light morning, right? They exist on a longitudinal line, and it's 7 a.m. there, or 6 a.m. there, and then the next longitudinal line, the light hits in the next one.
Yeah.
And that's the same for like Australia, and that's the same for like Russia. Time zone, correct. Which is not how it would work on a flat surface if you have a sun rotating along the.
It's not true.
Why is that?
Because it's like a light bulb. It's not focused in that.
So here's what you do.
Rectangular shape.
I'll tackle this just super quick. Basically, if you have a more local light, right, if we don't assume that the sun is infinitely far away, casting exuberant amounts of light that would cover exactly half of the globe at the same time, right, if we don't assume that, and we assume that it's somewhat more local, right, then you can actually do an experiment right over your own table. It's the same thing as kind of like the Eratosthenes. You can take a light, put it over something and see that it causes no shadow. You can see that there's a shadow caused on the other object. This is the same thing as saying that the sun is changing its relative position, and the light is going to be changing based on that relative position as well. If you keep moving the light away, further away from the object, the shadow is going to grow. Now, if you've ever been in a building where all the lights weren't working, then you can actually see this effect on a smaller scale than the Earth, but still bigger than the table, right? Because you can see one end of the building, lit up completely by the light that's over there, and that light does not travel completely over to the other side of the warehouse to light it up, right? The warehouse is still dark on the other side.
Why would
And you
the
got to assume that
illuminated
the
part
sun's
of
not
Earth?
4.3 million miles in size, right? The sun's actually much smaller than you think, and the Earth is big.
Why would the pattern of the light not be a circle?
What?
Does light
If
travel
if I
infinitely?
put light in all directions, why would it not be a circle?
Does light travel infinitely?
No, that's completely
It's under
irrelevant.
the sky.
Why
That's what I'm
would
saying.
why would
It's
the pattern of
perfectly
illumination
relevant.
not be a circle?
Light doesn't travel infinitely.
Attenuation of light, atmospheric conditions.
It
Boom.
travels the same distance in all directions. You can't say it doesn't.
Yes, we can.
Whether you
We
say
didn't
it
say that
travels
it does.
infinitely or not, it has to travel in the same distance in all directions. I'm sorry, it does.
No, it
So
doesn't.
if it only
If it's
travels
in the
100
sky, you
miles in
can
all
see it, dude.
directions and it's moving above the Earth,
Why?
lighting up a
Why
particular
would it
area,
not travel the same distance?
If there was one part of around the sun that had thicker atmos than the other side, then the light would admittedly not travel as far. So
That
you're
line
just
was on
assuming
calendar.
that the light has to hold on, you're just assuming that it has to travel all around because of the light source. You're not taking into account any of the other conditions like
So
the
you're saying
actual
all the
the
other
actual air
conditions.
around
You're
it.
saying all the other conditions depend on the date.
What?
You're saying
But
that all the other
that's different.
conditions that affect the shape of the light depend on the date. That's what you're telling me.
No, that's
Yes.
actually the opposite. The conditions change, and then you can log those changes on different dates, but it's not like a cause and effect relationship. It's not like the day changing literally causes the things like you're trying
it
to
will
say.
be illuminated the same this day next year as it is today. What's that got to do with refraction and
I
the
don't know.
thickness of the atmosphere and blah blah blah?
Admittedly, it won't be because of the precession of the equinox and Chandler's wobble. So explain that.
The ball, the fiery ball that's in the sky. How come you
Why did
can't
you
see
just
it when it's
deflect
on the
from that?
nighttime?
Well, no, he made
Why
a
did you?
positive claim that it's going to be in the
That's
same
fine.
spot, but it's not going to be in the same
Forget
spot
that
because of
positive
Chandler's
claim.
No.
because of Chandler's wobble.
Longitudinal,
No, I mean,
longitudinal horizon
what
with
about
the
There
it?
is a
sun,
date.
which is a ball of light that goes in all directions, which means in all directions it's experiencing the same push. Why is there a line of light that crosses what we see as the horizon, longitudinal lines that give people mornings longitudinally? Australia
Okay, but
goodness.
what makes
gets
you
it the
think
same
you can
time
see the
Russia
sun
does.
20,000 miles away?
I'm gonna make this
It's
super
going.
duper
Not
clear.
circular
You guys,
light.
hold on. Everybody, stop for a second. I'm just make this super duper clear. It's super simple. It really doesn't have to go in circles like it's been, right? So we have observations out at SEEP in particular, where you can see daylight ending. Right. It's a really cool observation. It's split. It's half daylight and it's half nighttime. You can actually see the sun setting, and you can see the moon coming up with the nighttime. The fact that you can see this is proof that day and night is not dictated by this hard sphere edge that you guys keep imagining. The truth is that light just doesn't
Not a
travel
hard
forever.
sphere edge, it's a
And
gradient.
hold on, and the part where the sun is finally set and you're no longer seeing the light from the sun, because those are two different events, right? That's twilight, right? The light just doesn't travel forever. Right, light actually gets absorbed by the atmos. That's why I keep bringing up attenuation of light, and you guys just keep hand waving it away. Right, the
That's not how it
atmos
works.
actually, well, it literally is though. You can't just say that it doesn't. What the heck is fog then? Get
Really
real,
just
bro.
saying it right now.
Get
Yes,
real.
when you have the light passing through the atmosphere, some of it can block it, but it still makes it to the ground. It still makes it to the ground. When you don't see it anymore, that's when it's passed behind the horizon. How come you can't see the sun anymore, but then you can see all the clouds getting lit up and all those pretty colors? It's because the light is hitting more of the atmosphere than before.
Moderator,
So
I
as it
think you
hits all
missed.
that, it changes
I think you
colors.
missed. I think you missed a huge point with that, right? The fact that the light is still present after the sun has set and takes it about 30 minutes. Actually, it takes 30
Rayleigh
minutes.
scattering.
Hey, hold on. It takes 30 minutes for the sunlight to actually stop arriving. That's why it was due to the hard sphere edge, and when the sun actually dipped behind that edge, you would no longer get the light,
No.
right? That would be
But that
the end
doesn't
of the
change
day.
that it is the same light longitudinally from the top to the bottom. In Russia, you'll get the same light as you get in Australia. It is along that longitudinal line that
That's because the sun
light
travels.
goes through the shadows, that it changes. It's
That's
not
because
in one
the sun
spot.
is that's just because you're thinking that again, I'm not really
If the
sure where
sun
you're
is in the
thinking
middle,
that
right?
Jesus Christ.
No,
The
let's
sun
go with
is
your logic.
spinning
If it's in the
around.
middle.
Hold on, spinning between rotating, revolving above
Okay.
the Earth between the
Yep.
Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. Why in the heck do I have to explain? I don't understand what you're wanting me to explain, right? I explained that the light doesn't travel forever, that
Because
creates
if
the
it is a
time
ball,
zones. The
that
time
all the
zones are
light
supposed to
spreads
be.
out.
Hold on.
Gotcha.
The time zones are supposed to be the same for the north and south, right? They're supposed to be 24 even time zones, but we don't have that. We have 19 in the north and we have 32 in the south.
That's to do
What
with
are
the
you talking
arrangement
about?
of continents.
Well, that's the thing. We don't have
We don't have
anything to
different time
verify.
zones in the
We don't
south and
have.
north.
Hold on. We don't have the verification that what you're saying is even true about the light being even Stevens for the ball, and therefore it works perfectly for the ball. No, we don't. We don't have the even time zones. It admittedly looks
Everyone
and
who
works
lives in
better
those
for the
time
flat
zones.
Earth. It looks and works better for the flat Earth. You guys try to assume that light travels. Hold on. You try to assume that light travels forever, even though we've explained Riley's principle
No, I don't
or
need
Riley's
it to.
scattering
I don't
and
need it to.
attenuation of light and refraction, and you guys literally hand wave this away every time something gets obstructed
You
in the
hand
distance. You
wave
want
the
to say it's
existence of
curvature.
people in the north and south.
No, I don't.
Millions and millions of people who could literally say it's not 7 a.m. here. The sun isn't here.
What
It's
are you
weird.
talking about? The times are what they are. It works perfectly. I don't have to explain any difference in
Perfectly for a
time.
globe, and you can see it based
No, it
on when the
doesn't.
light hits that
No, it
area.
doesn't. 19 time zones in the north.
That's the arrangement.
That's wrong.
That's to do with
It's
the
not different time zones.
Listen,
Ah,
host,
that's
on
wrong.
the
That's true.
equinox, host, on the equinox, there's a time of day when you can line up the terminator with the prime meridian in a straight line, and it will continue beyond the North Pole along that same angle. It's a straight, perfectly straight line on the equinox. Forget about the other half. Just concentrate on the half between the North Pole along the prime meridian to your ice wall. Please explain.
Explain what? The
Why?
sun's in a different position relative to the
How
observers.
does it illuminate Earth like that? Don't worry about where it is. How does the sun illuminate Earth like that? Don't
How is
worry
it a
about
problem?
where it's
How is it a problem?
It's a straight line.
What's a straight line?
Yeah, I just looked it up, bro.
The
It's the
terminator
same time
is a
zone, north
straight
and south,
line
bro.
across your flat map. Dead straight line. It's a semicircle.
Yeah, I'm
The
just not
light
really.
that hits the south hemisphere hits the top hemisphere at the same
Oh,
time.
so you guys. Oh, okay, I got you. So we're
That's
talking
the
again
point.
about the. So we've circled back to the coffee caustic explanation.
It's not a coffee
It doesn't
caustic
explain it.
because that's a ball hitting a flat surface. But everything else around it is also getting hit. We're not just looking at the coffee cup, which has a controlled border. We're looking at the entire surface. And when you look at that entire surface, that ball of light still exists in the sky. And that ball of light is pushing out light in all directions, evenly.
The ball.
And when it
the
hits
ball
all
of
air
light,
evenly, then you're going to have a pattern on the ground that shows a lot less sunlight that you're getting in
ball
certain
the
regions than
sky,
others. And those time zones
the
would
light
be
in
different.
The sky
But the north and
illuminates a
south time zones
semicircle
are
on
the same,
Earth.
bro.
The north
On
and
the
south time
You
zones
just
are
said that
not
they're
the
not.
same.
Don't Google it. Are you
I did.
serious?
Yeah, I googled
Time
it like
zones?
3 weeks ago.
Googling.
Yeah, I googled it like 3 weeks ago.
Nah, that's wrong. That's dead wrong. And you can say that you Google it, but I just did. Like with 15 different
no
sources.
one's
I took a hot
Googling
minute to
anything
make sure I
but you,
checked
bro.
everything I could.
Yeah.
It is the
first
same,
answer
bro.
on Google. Yeah. Okay.
No, not the first answer.
Whatever.
I said I just spent some time looking up like 15 different websites. I went to like page 3. Sure.
Don't
like,
confuse.
If
don't
there's a
confuse the
single
longitude
one
lines.
that says that there are different time zones in the north and south, I probably would have hit it at this point.
So you're going to deny. So you don't think that there's 32 time zones in the south and 19 in the north?
There's the same time zones.
Okay,
Time
why don't
zones
you
are
go
a
ahead and look that
There's
up word
32
for word?
hours in the south.
No, look
Time
that up
zones
word
are
for
a human
word.
convention, host.
Well, moderator Matt
How
doesn't
many
seem to
hours?
understand that.
How many hours are in the south? How many hours are in the north?
24.
24. So how many time zones are there?
I know, right? Supposed to
Hey,
be
why don't you just plug that
24.
into why don't you just plug
How
that
many
into your
time zones
Google
are
right
there?
now since you're searching things up?
You don't have more than 24 hours in the south or 24 hours in the north. It's the same. It's all
Google
along the longitudinal lines.
33 time zones in the South. Google that
All right, be right back.
since you're on it.
It's gonna have to catch up. So man,
Yeah,
the excuse
definitely.
is you're right. You're right on the money, Prince. The excuse for it is that it is a man-made construct, political reasons why they want to keep the time zones the way that they are. But it just so happens to like line up really, really well with what we'd expect to see on the flat Earth map.
I didn't speak to that as much as yet, but I would say this, right? We know we could do a thought experiment. We know that it's about 3 hours difference between New York and LA, with time difference, right? If it's noon in New York, you expect it to be noon 3 hours later in LA, right? LA is about 3,000 miles away from New York. So just 1,000 miles an hour because it's noon, an observation in New York, and now it's noon in LA. You would see the same effect in the southern hemisphere on that same day, where it would travel 3,000 miles and 3 hours over the same period. So if that's happening, I have to agree with the other gentleman and say that yes, although time zones politically may be different in number, what we observe, if we just stick to observation, it seems to be the same.
Prince, what if I was to
That
tell you
is,
that what you said was patently false, and the reason why you can say admittedly and know that it is patently false is because of the seasons. The South
Bro, double check
Hemisphere,
it.
hold on, the South
It's
Hemisphere
24 hours.
is in a completely different season than the North Hemisphere, right? And so you actually wouldn't expect to see the same amount of daylight, the same amount of sun time,
oh no,
on the
not the
same
same amount, just the time of
longitude.
day, just the same time of day. I mean, time
No,
of
you
day at
no, you wouldn't
noon.
expect to see the same amount of
Oh,
time a
okay.
day either, because
No, no, not the
again, the
same amount of
days are
time of
really
day.
hold on, the days are shorter in the winter, admittedly. So
Right,
as it
absolutely.
changes throughout the season, you would, depending on the relative position of the sun, you would see a different time of day longitudinally. So this whole argument that we're seeing the same amount of daytime longitudinally, it's just BS on its
Well,
face.
Be
I
clear, you're
want
not
you to
saying the same
explain.
amount
24
of
hours in the day.
daytime. You're just saying the same time of day. Like if it's 12 noon and the same longitudinal time, it will be 12 noon and the same place. Like if you observe the sun, you would see it in that position in the sky.
Actually, but Prince, the problem
It's
is
just
that that's not
lower on the
that's actually not
horizon.
true 100% of the time. There are actually instances where there is a 22-hour time difference on an area that's literally in the same longitude, right? And again, the excuse for that is that it's just political, right?
It is
No,
political.
I'm saying observationally.
It's not
Exactly.
an
Politically, it
excuse.
can be, but all different directions. So if you could say it's Sunday and you go like 5 miles north of you, and they would say, oh yeah, it's Wednesday, it's not Wednesday, but probably Saturday or something like that. So yes, politically that can be the case, but I'm talking about observationally. If I were to say, okay, 12 o'clock noon is when the sun is at its zenith, 90 degrees towards north or south, however you want to say it. It would be the same thing whether I'm in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. It would be that 90-degree measurement, not like time politically, not yeah. So that's my point. But I haven't made that observation myself, so I can't make an experiment for that.
But anyone can confirm this host that I'm showing on my screen.
The drawing of the half day, half night, the
Yeah.
conception begging the question of how it could work
No, 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 no,
if we
no,
assume
no,
that
no.
the Earth
This
is a
this
ball.
is your map. No, this is your map, and you can confirm it.
Well, we actually have a display of where the sun would be relative to its observer position, as well as how it would be casting the
No,
light.
no,
And it
no.
is
That's the
true.
whole of flat
It
Earth.
well,
That's
it
the
is.
whole of flat Earth,
Hold on,
and
it
that's
is.
how it's illuminated on
Londar,
the
Jesus
thing.
Christ, man.
Well, you
And
need to let you need
I'm
to let.
literally giving it to you, right? I'm literally giving it to
No,
you that it is true. The
That's
light pattern changes throughout the year based on what the
I'm
observed
not.
daylight times are, right? Based on the observed daylight times, right? You have that, you have where it's a little misshapen, right, on one part of the year for the summer during the southern hemisphere, during the southern winter, basically, or sorry, southern summer. I give it to you, right? I mean, it's misshapen, but the thing is that you just assume that because the light has to be a perfect circle of light, that this is a debunk of the flat Earth, but it's actually not. It just means that there's something else that needs to go into the explanation. The debunk of or the promotion of flat Earth, the proof of flat Earth is the debunking of the curvature, right? If you have no measurement of the curvature, that is effectively a measurement for flatness. On Dart, we'll go ahead
I
and
gotta jump out, guys, but nice talking to you all. Take care and all the best.
no worries. We got 2 more Globers coming up
Research
to
flat
replace you
Earth.
guys. Absolutely.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
It's going well. We got DJ Boy and George Physics, Jorge Physics. Welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Before we continue, I will let everybody know that we are on our 10-minute warning. So let's dive right in. Let's get right into the nitty-gritty of it, guys. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so the radar horizon is real. There are certain frequencies that will refract at the same rate that the Earth that curves. So you can get over the horizon radar that way, but most over the horizon radar bounces off the ionosphere using radio type waves. Most microwaves just penetrate the ionosphere is what we use to track space objects. So I just wanted to kind of clear that up. Rayleigh scattering is when the wavelength of the light's much larger than the wavelength of the size of the particles that it's hitting. So I just wanted to clear that up too. That's why the sky is blue, right? It gives us our blue sky.
Awesome, man. Just to get a quick clarification, it is obviously true that based on the different frequencies that the radar has and how far it will determine how far it can go, and thus the radar horizon can vary depending on what frequency you're using.
Yes, but just because you can have papers on the theory of propagation on a flat plane doesn't make the Earth flat. I mean, you can find all kinds of NASA papers with flat Earth assumption, non-spinning assumption. It really depends on the problem you're trying to solve. I mean, I remember in grad school doing E&M problems, we assume flat Earth for some of them and not on others. There's a time and a place for the different solutions.
Awesome, man. That's one thing I always appreciate about you, Jorge, is just being completely cordial and honest about the situation. The last guy who claimed to work with the radios and stuff was claiming that no, it's the same radar horizon for every radar, and I know because I own a radar. And I'm just like, yeah, but I just know that you're full of shit. So pardon my language. But
well, I mean, the propagation of electromagnetic waves is quite complex, and it is very frequency dependent, especially when you're going through a medium, right? And the atmosphere is a medium.
Absolutely.
And the atmosphere is not homogeneous, right? It's got different particles and ions, and so yeah, it's very complex, man. It's a very interesting theory.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate that. Awesome, DJ. What'd you have for us, my friend?
So I was having some questions about the the range of vision, pretty much. Well, first of all, what are the stars like luminaries within the firmament, correct?
I really don't know. And just to be completely honest with you, right? I don't really subscribe to a specific shape of the firmament or our containment or something like that. And for all I know, we actually don't have containment on the sides. The thing that does lead me to believe that there's something up above us is the measurable current that we have. The way that I think about it, and I could be wrong on this, right? It could just be a layer of plasma or something, right? Like an ionosphere or something that can transmit this voltage. But my thought process is that there has to be something to help transmit the voltage. Otherwise, we would not see the effect that we're seeing. We only really see this effect with Gaussian plates, with Gaussian surfaces. So, yeah, wrong, missing something. But if that doesn't happen to be the case, I'm perfectly comfortable with shucking the idea of containment, just to be completely honest with you.
And then, so then what would this, how far out are the stars?
I wish I could tell you. I really don't know. According to celestial navigation, I believe they gauge the celestial shelf to be like 7,500 miles.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that would
the
be
stars are
further than
hundreds of trillions of miles away. They're light years away.
yeah. Uh,
Don't they
but
disappear?
for your model, the stars would be further than the sun, correct?
Sure.
Like, much further. I
Okay.
mean,
Well, yeah, for our model, they're much, 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 much further.
okay,
But
sorry, you're
for your
asking me. Okay,
model,
sorry.
so what I'm getting at, here, let me
I've heard, just so you know, DJ, I have heard this question, I think, uh, 4 times in a row now on the lives. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're about to say because the sun is closer than the stars, why is it that we can see the stars but not the sun when it goes over the horizon, right, on the flat earth?
when the sun's on the other side of the flat plane in we're on the night side, we can see stars that are much further away than the sun that's dark, or that we can't see the sun, but we can see the stars that are behind them that are further away.
Right. So you actually answered that with the within your own explanation. The stars are further away, and I do believe that in the what you could call the flat Earth model. I think it does make more sense that the stars are further placed than the sun, and this would be a good piece of evidence for that. Right, the fact that we are stars, their general position, their global position, you could call it, over the Earth is much further than the sun's GP, right? It would make sense, even on a flat Earth, if we are seeing in hyperbolic space, for the sun, when it's lower, to have a closer vanishing point than the stars would.
Hey,
The
Tribune.
sun,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
okay, I don't quite get that. How would the sun have a closer vanishing point than the stars behind him?
So, okay, so let me ask you this, right? The vanishing point happens when things, for things that are above us, when things drop down to the horizon, correct?
The vanishing point is the vanishing point is at the horizon.
Right. So when things go to the vanishing point, they effectively go down in relation to the observer. Is this true or false? It's true, right?
They appear, yeah, they
Right.
appear. They're getting
Right.
further away, so they're appearing smaller and closer to the vanishing.
Right, exactly. So it's not literally getting lower, it just optically it appears to be getting lower to the observer, right? Well, if you think about it, that means that things that are higher up are going to take longer to get to the horizon line, correct? Than things that are lower. And I do mean physically at this point. Like if you have something that's physically at a lower altitude than something else, right? The thing that's at the higher altitude is going to have much further to drop down to the horizon than the thing that's lower on the altitude, correct?
Okay, but then that wouldn't work on the top of a mountain. So, on if you're on the top of a mountain, you'll have stars that are at a lower what the sun would appear to be.
So I'm really glad that you brought up mountains because when you get up and you level yourself up more with the sun, you actually can see it for longer and you can see it go a little bit further. So you are extending your field of view. And this does happen even on the globe claim, right? The globe claims that this happens because you're seeing further up over the curve. But this would happen even on a flat surface because you're increasing, you're basically getting a better field of view to the sun by raising up higher to it. Right now, this doesn't mean that it won't set at all, right? Because there is still things in the distance, right? There's mountains. The horizon still does rise up, right, to the observer prospectively, and that means that there is always going to be a point, as long as there's something physical on the horizon, there's always going to be a point in which the things in the sky will disappear bottom up behind those things. But I'm sorry, the things that are above you. But the more level you get with it, you will be able to extend that view. So, in other words, to get back to the point of like, why can we see the sun? Why can't we see the sun, but we can see the stars? It's because the stars are higher. You have a better field of view to the stars for much longer than you do for the sun because the sun is lower in altitude.
Even when a star has a lower observation height than the sun?
I'm not sure what you mean.
So the sun's up here, but you have stars down here, so it's at a
Well, you would never.
lower
Well,
height. So when the sun goes away, you can still see these stars that are further away that would have been at a lower height
so
than
no, you're
in the sky.
DJ. To be 100% fair, you would never see the sun that high in the sky and the star that low on the horizon, right? This is an observation that does not exist. You would have, and
Well, on globe Earth, you would never see that, but
no,
that's
what?
the way it is on a
Well,
flat
DJ,
Earth.
that's. I'm not sure if you were here for the whole live, so I'll try not to get triggered. But the thing is again, the globe assumes that we're seeing in perfect Euclidean geometry. So you think that this math works, putting it in orthographic view.
So
We actually had this exact discussion.
I get it. So you're saying that we're on our view is a saddle instead of a straight line.
Yeah, our view is effectively a hemisphere, and this can be proven, demonstrated with the alley experiments.
Hemisphere or saddle?
I just have to say, guys, I mean, there's a lot of discussion here about geometry and vanishing points, but the sun's angular size is half a degree in the sky.
Well,
Always,
yeah.
it does squish a little bit in the vertical direction during sunset because of refraction, but its width does not change size. It's half a degree, and you just need a decent filter. So I mean, the sun does not vanish away; it stays the same angular size. So unless the sun is coming towards you while it's changing physical size, there's no way to explain that, Tribune. That's a simple observational fact.
George, I would actually,
not a belief.
I'll actually address that point specifically here in just 1 second. I do want to shout out over from the YouTube. We got a super chat from Russell Gregory. Great debates. I just hate that the first few Globers couldn't slow down enough to keep their mouth shut long enough to do some critical thinking. Generous donation, Gregory. We really appreciate that. For those who don't know, who are joining us, we do have this entire stream going on YouTube and Rockfin. So if you're just joining us and you want to catch the rest of the conversation, feel free to go subscribe, drop a like, share the show if you found some value. And that's regardless of what side of the debate you're on, right? I know a lot of Globers out there feel like I'm getting smashed out here. So if you feel out, right? Now, to the point that you just made, George Physics, about the angular size. Now, I'm glad that you did admit that we do see some squishing, right? That we do actually see some changing, and this is measurable. You can count the pixels, and not only that, but we do have admitted changing in angular size throughout the year as we go on the globe model through the close and far parts of our orbit. So there is a little bit. There's a little bit. In any case, we actually have a physical demonstration. The reason why the sun doesn't appear to change angular size barely at all is simply because of where it's at with relation to the observer. So when you are actually farther away or looking down or up at an object versus something that's further away on the horizon versus something that's right above you, you'll actually see almost no change in the angular size from that position. Now, once you get even with it, you know, like a car coming straight at you on the street, the angular size becomes much more pronounced. Now, this is interesting because we do have observations from high altitude on dry days, even with solar filters, where the sun does appear to shrink, and somewhere it even appears to fade out. The best explanation I've heard for those are that they have to be faked, but I'm curious to your take on it.
Yeah, I would say that there would be a failure in the instruments because the sun's angular size is about a half a degree. And you know, when you take away refraction, but that refraction, like I said, doesn't change the width of it, the horizontal size, it changes the vertical size. So the, if you will, the horizontal size of the sun is always a half a degree. And plus or minus a very small amount from what you mentioned, the 1 million or so mile difference in our orbits out of the 90, so maybe a 10% difference in that over the year or less, 5%.
If you want, George, I can send you demonstration that Dave Weiss did, where he actually has two wiffle balls, and he shows what the view looks like from vertically versus looking at it straight on. And I feel that this perfectly explains the lack and change of angular size, but
Yeah,
not just
sure. I'm
not
having a hard time visualizing it, but I wouldn't mind looking at it. I like to look at stuff.
Absolutely. And not just that, but we also have, again, if we're seeing in a hemisphere around us, when the sun is rising, it's no further away than when the sun is setting, give or take, some minor conditions of the atmos. So we really wouldn't expect to see it change angular size that much anyway, as well as when it's directly overhead, right? Because we are seeing in this effectively a dome, right? So it's the same distance as it is when it rises to the observer as it is when it's overhead of the observer as it is when it's at the horizon at sunset.
Yeah, and I just wanted to bring up
Yep.
one more point, Trivia. I know we got to go soon, but like with respect to the water being level, I mean, for everybody in the chat, I mean, gravity defines your down direction towards the center. So this is the model of the Earth here, and the water, flat water is just it's a surface that's at an equipotential, and to be equipotential, gravity means you are the same distance from the center. So water will follow the curve to keep it at the same distance from the center of the gravity, and that's just kind of the standard theory of why water stays on the globe and it adheres to the shape of it. It's trying to minimize its energy by flowing along the equipotential surface.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Level is
Level
just
equals
no
means
part
curve.
higher than the other. Whether
Yeah. So if somebody
whether
said,
it's
yeah, it's just it's this same altitude between 2 points, and that works here
whether
too.
it's a sphere or it's flat, it's the same thing, just no part higher than the other.
Yep. And gravity is just what's defined down. And people say prove gravity. We have a good representation for it, man. I can't tell you specifically what gravity is. Einstein tried. He may or may not be right. It's a pretty good theory. But nobody can explain to me what a charge is. Like, what is charge? We can observe it, just like we observe gravity, but nobody on here can tell me what is charge.
That's true.
So I just find those arguments I don't like those arguments, Tribune. It's like, you have a good model for it or not, man. And it matches what you observe in nature or it doesn't. That's all science is. It's not a set of beliefs on faith or anything. It's just based on data.
I
And that's
think
why I
that
get on here and chat with you. To give
Based
you
on
that
assumptions,
perspective.
actually.
for sure. I think that some of the
Well,
data. I think that some of the data, with regards to time dilation and proving out relativity, has been grossly misrepresented and overplayed in how solid it was. Like I'm taking, for example, the gravitational lensing experiment. I'm trying to remember the name of the scientist. Eddington. The Eddington experiment. They had 32 different plates that they were attempting to capture the effect on, and they only were able to get 2 plates barely passable. And then I'm trying to remember if it was Eddington himself who wrote a book on it, or if one of the other colleagues that wrote a book that was talking about how they even fudged some of the numbers with the 2 plates to end up getting that passed through. In any case, even if it wasn't fudged at all, 2 out of 32 is hardly what I would consider verifiable, demonstrable evidence of it. And then when you get into the time dilation, I don't want to make too much claims on that because I don't know the specifics, but I have heard that the data itself was much more all erratic, all over the place than what was actually put forward. That they cherry picked out the data that best matched when there was actually that to it. But I want to look into that a little bit more.
Tribune, I mean, both special relativity and general relativity time corrections are used in our GPS timing solutions in order to get us, meter class resolutions instead of kilometer class resolution.
We actually, there's somebody that I wanted you to look at. 1 second, I'm going to scroll through my chat just briefly because there was that claim is actually in being challenged. The idea that the satellites have to use the time dilation corrections based on the predictions made from relativity. I've heard that they did not work and that they actually had to hire somebody to fix it. And this person actually wrote a whole book on how they had to fix that. But I'm trying to find the name of it. If anybody in my chat, if you're still listening, if you could drop that again for me, because I am reading it right now. That'd
I'd
be
love to
awesome.
see that because I mean, you need roughly nanosecond resolution, and the corrections due to special relativity alone are like dozens of microseconds. So that's thousands of times more error than you
and
can
and you're
allow.
already and you already don't believe in the dark matter necessarily, and have a friend that's challenging the mainstream
Yeah, I
what's
don't
thought of
believe
the
in.
mainstream
Yeah,
physics model anyway. So I think if with things like this to help throw out maybe some unnecessary variables that you need to account for can really help with that endeavor.
yeah. As you know, I'm not a big fan of dark matter, though. I have to say, dark matter plus general relativity is pretty good. But
It was Ron Hatch that wrote the book. So, if you want, I can try to find the book specifically and actually send it to you, and that way you can dig right on into it and find
yes,
out
hit me
how
up
they
on
fix
message.
that.
Yes, shoot me a message.
It'd be funny if the way they fixed it was by using what we just weren't using general relativity right, and that was the problem. That'd be pretty
General
funny,
relativity
but
is
I don't
super
think that
hard,
that was the
man.
case.
It's the hardest field there is.
Absolutely. Well, it's 12:09. I do want to go ahead and wrap it up. Let's go around the panel. Let's make our last little point and call it a day, shall we?
I'll just say, we definitely live on the globe. It's been confirmed many, many times. But it's nice to have these discussions just because it gets us thinking about stuff. Granted, some of it's a lot, some of it's not exactly right, but at least it gets our minds going and it gets us engaged in conversation, which is the thing that I think is best for all of us is engaging in conversation, especially when it's cordial conversation. So thanks for allowing that.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. Melodome, Jorge, who wants to go first?
I'm waiting for the Globies to go.
Gotcha. Thanks again, Tribune, as usual. Thanks for having me on and keeping it cordial. Enjoy having the discussions with folks. I a big fan of skepticism and curiosity, and there's no shortage of that in this community. I just ask y'all to also consider the data, right? Just that's what makes the scientific process works, is that there's a body of data out there that we can exploit and rely on to make sure that our skepticism is focused in the right direction for the betterment of all of us.
Absolutely. George, thanks so much for coming on. Melodome, let's go ahead and wrap it up, buddy.
Yeah, man, this is great. Yeah, George, I like you, bro. But all them other Globies, I mean, we spent most of this time talking about what was in the sky and not even talking about Earth. And then when we did, it was a mess. The Globies were even talking over each other, and it was. But yeah, this was fun. Troubling, man, you got the patience of a saint, brother. I was over here pulling my hair out listening to them ones earlier, and I'm really glad that we got you doing this kind of stuff. I appreciate that. And also, look at the information, look into it yourself, figure it out yourself. Like George was saying, this is good. I like this, Troubling. You got to keep doing this, bro. You're crushing, man.
For sure, homie. I really appreciate you coming on, adding some spice to the panel, of course.
Yeah, I'm
No
not really
shortage.
good at the whole debating thing. I want to try and work on that. But when people are when they're, honest, then it becomes a better conversation. Like when George hopped on here, he's not, just deflecting the entire time. So, yeah,
Exactly.
this is great.
Right. At least when we deflect, we still answer the question, right? And then we deflect to something else, right? There's no problem. Obviously, not every model has all the answers to anything, right? So it's totally fine. That's why I just don't like the questions very much about, like, well, how far are the stars? How far is the sun? Because the truth is that we just don't know, right? And I have no way to check it, to verify it. So if I did tell you, well, I know the sun is this far, or I know the stars are this far, I would just be lying to you, and that's not what this is about.
Right, but I
All
can't
right.
also say that I don't have Superman vision and I don't think I can see trillions of miles away or even in time. The stars are actually dead, just the light is traveling to me. It hasn't, all that ridiculous stuff. And again, we weren't talking about what we were standing on. We were talking about things above our heads. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad that we
Yeah,
had.
I know you don't like talking about the stars. It's just
The
easiest way
star
to prove that
can
it's
go
a
there.
globe.
You know, we can talk about the
Just
stars all you
observations
want,
that we
but
have
it
from it.
doesn't mean that you know, the Earth is a globe because there's stars above our head.
It's one of the easiest ways to prove that it's a globe, and it's
By looking
just
up
basic
is the
observations.
easiest way, right?
I said one of them, so yeah.
Okay.
But okay,
Well, I appreciate it,
yeah,
Trouble, and keep
all done.
crushing, brother.
Thank you.
I pulled all my hair out. I'm bald now, so
I'm sorry, bro. Thanks for coming
all
on,
right.
man.
Much
All right,
love, brother.
guys. Oh. All right, guys, let's go ahead and call it a day. Huge shout out to the 150 of you that are still here over on the TikTok. I am going to go ahead and play a sick outro for all the people over on the YouTube and Rockfin. So don't go anywhere, gang. Going to be awesome. What else do we have? Oh, yeah. The thing is, it's very telling when it comes to this debate, and is that oftentimes it does get said that, well, looking up at the sky is the best way to determine the shape of where it is that we live, right? It's one of the best ways. And the thing is that just keeps getting hand waved away is the fact that we are literally seeing in a sphere around us, in a hemisphere, mind you, because you can't see through the ground below your feet, right? But if you could, you'd be seeing in a sphere around you, right? That's because light doesn't travel forever and your eyes don't see forever. So you can only pick up so much. And with that being said, we have anti-crepuscular rays that literally bend, right? Those are supposedly straight lines, parallel, and they not only they converge on one end where the sun is, they widen out to the observer, which is us, and then they merge back again on the other side of the horizon. This is proof 100% that we do see in a sphere that light does not travel in these straight lines to us, that effectively, to our perspective, they are curving in a what seems to be like a dome-like shape. So, with that, we extrapolate this whole model of what we think the Earth is based on that. And I don't think that it's a very smart way of coming to the truth. But in any case, guys, I love you. Thanks for smashing the likes, getting us all the way to 12,500. That's awesome. Sharing the show. That's always good. I do appreciate all you folks who go over and make it to the YouTube and Rockfin. We are still blowing that thing up. So if I don't see you soon over here, I will probably see you over there. Who knows? But until then, I'm going to be doing a Saturday show. What are we doing that? Yeah, YouTube only, YouTube and Rockfin. We're going to be on with Flat Earth and Coffee. And we are also going to be doing a Discord event, Fight the Globe. It's going to be me, Shane St. Pierre, and Alan from Space Audits going to be taking on an entire server of Globies. It's going to be awesome. You don't want to miss it. What better reason to go and subscribe? Also, the grift that keeps on grifting, right? Check out the merch store. You can find the link in the description over on YouTube. Awesome. Love you guys. Peace out. YouTube, I'll be right with you. Let's go ahead and. All right, folks, what a show. Let's go ahead and get back over to screen. Man, that first part of the debate was super duper painful. I don't know about y'all, but I was having a hard time not getting triggered. Anyway, let's do a quick shout out to the folks that are still here and pull up a gnarly song for y'all. We do appreciate it. Holy crap, we got some tips to read out over on the Rockfin. Sit tight. My goodness. Much love, guys. Shout out to Hertz Pigeon. We also have Willie Nanny, Robert Hunt. Robert Hunt joined us in the panel with Witsit the other day. That was pretty awesome. We have lots of back and forth here. Sorry, lots of scrolling. Mischief Brew, Jeremy Bird. Awesome. Alrighty. Here we go. Finally got to it. Michael Pritchard. Man, thank you for the generous donation there. $20. Wow. For tolerating people who just love to argue. Nobody can be that dumb. I'm glad that you saw it. very selectively, as Witsit would say, selectively and tactfully dishonest. Very frustrating to deal with. Very hard to land a point. Adam made a shout out as well. The Globe Tartary. Super funny. Cody Ford always gets them spiraling. You know it. Fishhead, Montana. Setneg. Awesome, man. Thank you for the $5 tip. Much love. Keep up the good fight, brother. You know we will. And you guys help make it all the worth it. Coming through, reading these chats, seeing how much you guys enjoyed it. It's awesome. Absolutely awesome. All right, let's jump over to the YouTube. We got quite a bit to go through here. It's just scrolling on. It's been a while. Whoopsie daisy. All right. We got. It's still going. My goodness. I would have to let that catch up. Just a second. Here pretty soon we're going to be we are going to be dropping something a little bit different. Going to not talk too much on that actually, because surprises are nice, but we will go ahead and have something a little different coming pretty soon. Tomorrow, I did mention that we have the conversation with Flat Earth and Coffee. I believe we're doing that around 6. I'll have to reconvene with him and find out for sure. And that's going to be an awesome conversation. And then, like I said, we're going to be joining Shane St. Pierre and Alan from Space Audits in a Fight the Globe segment. Is going to be absolutely gnarly. 1 second. Let's try to not have this commercial interrupt our lovely time. Caught me pulling up the song in the background. All right. Let's go ahead and shout out the YouTube. It's finally slowed down to where I can catch it. We got Jeremy Bird, Femi Domez, Thrashlist Smith, Creature. We have, of course, the Melodome. True Earth Debate replay Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern. You guys are not going to want to miss that. We took on Austin's good friend, Adam. Good friend. That's funny. Okay. We also have Space Miner. It's not going to stop on YouTube. Hopefully not. Lying for Truth. My goodness. Bill Wheel. I don't know if I can get behind Lying for Truth. That's an iffy name. Omega Genesis. Russell Gregory. We got Justin Parks. Also, huge shout out to Justin for the free memberships that he was gifting out. Awesome. Also, nice $20 super chat as well. Appreciate your work and composure. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. All right. We also have Science Works in Mysterious Ways. Salted Cedar. Let's see here. Who are we missing? Nominal. Tons of you guys. Be sure to smash that like on the way out the door and give it a good share if you found some value here. We're trying to continuously expand that audience, which will trickle over into everybody else. I just seen that Jeranism finally got to 160,000 after years and years of being stuck at 150. So we are having an impact out here, guys, and it's all thanks to you sharing the show. All right, we also have Anson Howard, Humans of Earth. Message deleted. Probably shouldn't have shouted you out, but whatever. You got it. You got it this time. Brian Leake, thank you for helping me out with that question earlier. All right. Guys, I could literally do this all night. JK, that's an actual name. All right. And keep scrolling. You guys know I love you. We are going to go ahead and call it a night. We are super exhausted. Lots of stuff that we've been taking care of. But it's going to be super awesome. We got a lot of great things coming with the Audit NASA as well. So definitely check that out. And last but not least, I can't believe that I almost forgot this one. This was probably one of the most important ones. The True Earth Summit. If you are not going to be there, then you will certainly, in my opinion, be Sphere. That is going to be an awesome event. And if you are a little unsure of who you want to throw your support behind on that, I'm throwing mine behind Globebusters. They're actually doing kits to help people who are homeschooling children, and this is a cause that I feel does need a lot of attention. If we ever want things to change, we are going to have to start with the younger generation, and so Miss Cami Nodell is helping make homeschoolers' dreams a reality by putting these kits together. So all the proceeds from the Globebusters 50 coupon for the True Earth Summit will be going to that. So uh, get them while supplies last. There's also tons of tremendous discounts and products that you guys are going to be able to get with your gift basket for that, as well as some fire presentations, including by our boy Mellow Dome. Austin Thompson will be doing a presentation. So definitely go and check that out. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get on out of here. Actually, there's one last thing. I did not check the Cash App. Sorry, David Cupidlowski. See you in Vegas. Awesome. Heck yeah, man. We are building up funds for that. We're already almost at $600, guys, for that trip. So definitely show the love, and we are going to see you all in Flattoberfest in October. It's going to be an awesome time. Looking forward to it. Let's get the heck out of here. Good night until tomorrow. Peace.